Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we are back to Virtue's Last Reward. So we made it to the Botanical Garden. We are at the last three escape rooms, which just seem like they are the left doors behind the second group of chromatic doors. Uh, we did, however, fail to unlock the golden file in this puzzle room because as soon as I put in uh, the extra code, it just ended that grouping. So I guess it's it's fairly ridiculous that I've been able to do no less than 8 escape rooms and and get the golden file second and it not be a problem, and then all of a sudden I hit one escape room and it doesn't let me get the golden file. So I guess I've learned my lesson now, and I'm going to put in the golden file extra password first. We also are definitely down the line of a very different timeline now, all of a sudden, and the old lady's body has not been found, and the bomb has been found that was hinted at much earlier, uh, which almost makes it feel like if I was to go back and replay a scenario here, would the dead lady's body not be found in any of these? Am I just straight up changing the path and the reality of it every time? We're going to have to cross the water to get over there. Please be careful. If you slip, you can fall into the stream. Select the blue arrow to move from your current arrow to an adjacent one. So, interestingly, we are pivoted in this case on a single point. Circular indentation on the panel, and there's two fan-shaped holes inside it. Look carefully. Those fans are connected. They look like a butterfly. So the safe is here, the exit door is here, the entrance door is here. And in this case, it's just Sigma telling himself there's no point in going back, whereas in other instances, it's definitely been someone yelling at you to not go back. There's a red spotted mushroom growing in the shade of the tree. Interesting. I apparently am not going to pluck it. So this is like a little botanical garden oasis. Honestly, the arrows probably are a better trick here than going with some of the curved on rails tests that they did in some of the other rooms. That being said, it does seem fairly obvious that the next step of logic to this game, once they went 3D, was that they were going to go free open world walk, free roaming. So now we have a bronze key. We'll go ahead and take a large shovel too. See, we'll just look at everything. While we're here. And all the rooms in this game definitely are small enough that it would totally make sense that you could free roam. They even made a waterfall. Hold on, doesn't it look like there's something built into the rock behind the waterfall? Yeah, the walkway goes under it, doesn't it? I wonder what's back there. Okay. So, this, as far as the map, if we look at floor B, this room is obviously the mid-right room with the big large curve in it. And I suppose the scale is fairly off here because this room looks nowhere as big as the warehouse room does, while it's being depicted as almost as big. We assume these are just fake screens to make it look like the sky, or Yeah, we have to, I suppose, go with screens because the clouds are actually moving. And that's interesting that there's actually even any detail there, since you really wouldn't see that. And then there's like one light hanging down. Are there any other lights hanging down? No. So that might actually be part of the puzzle. And I assume that just in the future there's enough technology to give off the right kind of solar infrared radiation to actually help plants survive. Although there's really not a lot of plants here. Like, I feel like even for a facility designed for 9 people, you're gonna have to get into vertical farming and or just have a lot more space for a lot more plants if you're trying to refresh the oxygen that way. Of course, maybe that's all done via machines, and this is simply for mental health reasons that this botanical garden would have been created. It's weird though to think that paprika, no, that's a pepper, probably a bell pepper. Paprika is what you call the spice you make from them. Oh, huh? Why is it split in half? I'm not sure. Wait, there's something in there. Oh yeah, let me take a look. We found a yellow coin. You can get lots of different colored coins by using different alloys. I saw a 5-cent coin made of brass once, a 10-cent made from bronze. I've seen people using metal detectors to search for coins on those shows where they hunt for treasure. Yeah, I guess if the coins are metal, that would make sense. So we think maybe there's some other coins inside the vegetables. Yep. It does kind of break logic to then have plants being grown for potential food. Don't people usually hide their house keys under a flower pot or in the mailbox? They do? Just trust me. I'm sure there's something under there. There we go, we have a silver key. Now, open world free roaming would not really change this game much, in all fairness. It would just bring it down to a level where it was much more familiar and much more relatable to, compared to so many other games. But it also potentially has the problem of opening up doors where some of these escape rooms could have some collectible and you just wouldn't see it because you would lock yourself mentally into potentially just walking in circles, and you would never maybe get up to an edge or get into a certain area or realize that you can go in a certain area. And then once you open the door of free roaming, you also open the door to potentially having a place where you could need to jump, or where you'll fall off into an abyss, or you'll just walk into invisible walls. In this game in particular, invisible walls have already been handled, since you're always trapped around some area with walls. We now have a metal detector. I've never seen a metal detector look like that. This is a metal detector. It's pretty much what it says on the tin. You use it to detect metal. What sort of range do you think it has? Depends on the amount of metal. Large objects can be detected even if they're several meters underground. That's amazing. But what about small things like a ring or a screw? Yeah. Unfortunately, sometimes you can't find that sort of thing even if they're only a few centimeters underground. Oh. So you need to be pretty close to the metal detector for it to work then. We can see if this is metal, I suppose. But I bet that's not what we're going to actually use it for then. What does this say? This is, it looks like a tombstone. So people buried here are Mr. Tu, Fu, and Miss Ego. Eris? What? Well, that's what it says. Tu fu ego iris. That's an epitaph. Something they feel that represents them, or just a phrase they like. What does it mean? Beats me. Any ideas, Luna? It looks like it's Latin, but I don't know what it means either. Did you see this? It looks like there's a keyhole down near the bottom. You're right. So maybe there is a scenario where we could get Phi in here, because Phi knows how to read Latin. Well, we know what ego is, but iris, tui, I have no idea. It would be just baseless guessing. See if the key works. Nope, no luck. Nope, no keyhole for the silver one. So, it's not the right keyhole. This looks like there's some sort of mosaic at the bottom of the pond. A lion. Yeah. Looks like a lion, alright. So, a lion eating the sun. We just constantly are seeing that. White flower with green leaves. It's a skunk cabbage. The white flower part is actually the leaf. So, are we supposed to just use the metal detector on potentially everything? Do we need to turn the water off so we can use the metal detector on that? Let's see, we've got a knife. Metal scale, there's a plate on each side. On the right plate is a gold coin. I mean gold key. And on the left, there's a small knife. That looks like a paring knife. What's that? It's a knife you use for small, delicate work, like deveining shrimp, but you can cut pretty much anything with it. So, it is fairly obvious that almost any path you go down, whoever Zero is, he's going to end up with a weapon that he could use. You know all about cooking and stuff. I bet Alice just cuts things with her bare hands. I guess it's time I showed you just how good I am at cooking things. I think I'll start by cooking you. Sorry. And we have a piece of metal. I think this is part of something. This part kind of looks like a butterfly. Yeah, I can see that, like wings. The other side is sort of octagonal shape. Well, we know what that is for. Is there something here on the wood? So we see what's heavier with the balance scale. There's just enough room for two on this bench. Why are you looking at me? Oh, no reason. So, it's kind of weird in the sense that Sigma is kind of lecturing on all of the female characters in the game. Aren't the coins made of metal? You've got the perfect way to find them, don't you? Really? So instead of just cutting open all the plants, which is probably a dumb move, come to think of it, we'll use the metal detector. Oh, the metal detector seems to be responding to this tomato. Alright, grab it. Okay. Did it react to any others? No, just this one. Here you go. So we have a freshly picked tomato, which we can combine with this. This is also probably the maximum number of items you'd ever get. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We now have a red coin. I'm not suspecting that we're gonna get much higher than that number. Oh, this one, it's reacting to this onion. Alright, let's dig it up. So did I use the shovel to dig it up, or did I just pull that? This is the one that got the reaction, right? Metal detector went off when I waved the coin over this. This must mean there's metal in there. And we're trading out the onion for a coin. So we might be up to 12. And then an empty spot for kind of no reason. Because there's seemingly never a scenario where you actually need your inventory to be empty to interact with an object. And I'm glad for that, because the game could be incredibly annoying if you accidentally hit the right stick, select an item, and then you try to click on the safe or something and it just says, well, this item doesn't work with that item. That's a problem we've seen in many previous generations of point-and-click adventure games where if you're not careful, you end up locking a person into using an item with another object when you didn't really mean to. Oh look, the metal detector's reacting to this one. Can you grab that one? Right. Did any others cause any reaction? No, just this one. Here you go. So now we have a cucumber. So we've now got 4 colored coins, and we seemingly have an indication that under 3 things are buried treasure, but I haven't seen this moss hill on the left yet, so we'll have to use the shovel on that. Unless it's just this moss hill here. Let's see. Yeah, it is. Alright, let's try digging here. So we have a box with a bronze lid. And then we just combine that with the bronze key. We have a torn scrap of paper. Alright. And we can't just click on the mushroom even though we're going this way. This is a large Japanese Zelkova tree, which I have never heard of that, but I am not familiar with every single plant in Japan by any means. So then we dig up there, which I guess that inherently implies that these plants were literally planted to grow in that one spot. And then we can just go ahead and combine those two. And then over here, we can go ahead and combine this with this. Now we have a lever handle. And we can use the lever handle here. And it'll fix perfectly in the hole. Good, now try turning it. And it lowered the sun into the water. Looks like the light up there went down. Maybe the light was some sort of surrogate sun. If that's the case, it didn't just get darker, it became nighttime. So the garden needs nighttime? I guess so. Or maybe there's some hidden meaning to switching from night to day. Let's go see if it changed now that it's dark. If we want it to be afternoon again, all we have to do is turn the handle, right? So now it's particularly dimmer in this area. It's just everything changed. It's too dark to see what's going on. I need to go back here. Over here in the water I see nothing. But then I notice over here we have a purple star and a blue star. And a yellow star. And then a green star. And then a red star. So I don't know if all these colors matter or not, but that might literally just be the solution to the chromatic doors. But if that was the case, we're not doing any of the secondary colors so often, or maybe in the right order. Hey, look at that. These are these stars? Maybe the idea is when night falls, the stars come out. We have a custom animation. Purple star. Maybe blue, maybe cyan star. Yellow star. Green star. Red star. That's like four different options. Stars showed up once the night fell. I wonder if there's some significance. Well, while we're working on this, let's see what else we can do. I think absolutely nothing without the light back on. We could look up here and see if maybe there's just something up there that's different. It doesn't seem like it. So I think we're gonna have to turn this. I thought this lever would turn off the waterfall. That was the more obvious guess in my mind. Okay. Just 3 buttons. Brute forcing 3 buttons is not particularly difficult. I'm having trouble hitting the actual arrow there. Gonna dig up the skunk cabbage. Poor things. It's never done anything to you. Don't worry, I'll replant it when we're done. So now we can combine that with that, and we are now getting our inventory back down to a much more manageable number. Now I don't have the shovel anymore, so replanting when you're done doesn't make sense. We now have 4 coins, with the one exception of the white coin. All the coins are the same color as the stars, so there's probably a trick there. I think the ceiling dome is made up of a bunch of hexagonal screens. If you're playing a video that looks like this guy, then it means it won't ever get rainy or stormy or anything. Probably not. Although I imagine they have some kind of system to place water into plants. Sounds pretty boring. It's not what I meant to click on though. Balance scale, you can use it to weigh things. It can help tell you if things that look similar have different weights. Like those coins, for instance. Hold A button to grab the coins to use, and use the directional buttons to place them on the plate. Release A button to release the coins. You can press the check button on the scale to compare weights. Once you're finished, we'll press the reset button. Okay, so we have a mini game here, and you know this is heavier. So let's just keep going down that route. You know, this is heavier. Wish we could kind of move these out of order. So this is... No, this is still heavier. Okay. So green is heaviest. And then we'll see if yellow is heavier still. So it's green, yellow. And then white, then red. What? It just flew everywhere. You think it's broken? Let's see. Oh, I get it. If you use the scale more than 5 times, it triggers a spring, which makes the whole thing shake. If you do the same thing, it'll do the same thing if you stop using it before you reach 5 times. Alright, we need to pick up all the coins. Well, now I've got the coins. So I'm not sure what we're really trying to accomplish here, other than can we find some kind of balance like this. We'll give you 2 more tries to try and figure out the weight. If we can't manage it, we're gonna have to take over. She's right. If you keep this up, the scale might break. If you start the skill game again after playing it twice, the difficulty level will automatically change to easy. Well, now I've got all the coins. See, now this seems just unfair, and now I'm gonna have to come over here and make a save file. Wow, game's been left running 100 hours at this point. To make sure I don't go into easy mode, because if I go into easy mode, then I miss out on the golden file. And even though I've missed out on the golden file before, in the previous escape room, I don't want that to happen. I want you guys tired? Why don't you rest on the bench for a while? The water from the waterfall splashed us all over it, though. If we sit here, our butts will get wet. Damn it. I've been made. I don't even understand the goal there. It's like... first of all, because if you think about Luna's clothing, if her clothing gets wet, it's not going to become see-through, so you would have to take it to the next step and convince her then to take the clothing off. And if Alice's clothing gets wet, it's not going to become see-through, and she's already pretty much topless anyways. Let's see, there are 3 red buttons. I pushed them, but nothing happened. Do you think they're broken? Maybe you need to press them in a specific order. Okay. We have this 7 red dots on it, and they're running down the left edge. Maybe it's supposed to read in that direction of the arrow. Looks like the dots are either in the middle, the left, or the right. Okay, so we use this. This, 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 this. And see, I can just see it as it's being depicted, so unless this icon here is actually inaccurate, this should do it. And that turns off the waterfall sound, which is nice. Guess that was the waterfall control panel. I don't know what would really turn it back on. Okay. So if I correctly remember, let's see. Gold was the heaviest, then green, I think. So gold is the greatest. And then greenish. And then I think white. Okay, that's not right. We'll try this then. Nope. I'm guessing just putting the coins in random holes won't do as much good. There's a less sign indicator in all of the indentions. I bet it has something to do with where the coins go. All the coins are the same shape and size though. How are we supposed to compare them? Wait. I think I saw a scale around here. We can use that to compare the weights. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna bother to do that. Instead, I'm just gonna brute force it. There we go. What's that noise? Sounded like something unlocking. I guess it wasn't just a panel, it was actually a door. And there's a screen inside. It's showing 9 stars. What are we supposed to do with them? Well, why don't you try touching them? Okay. Can we remember this now? It was red, green, then I believe yellow, and then blue, and then purple. Alright, let's go. So opening the door is nothing. So hopefully we can activate the panel with the lights off and put in the code. We have now done everything in this room, and yeah, we have used all of our items. And there's a solution going both directions, I'm sure. Purple, blue, yellow, green, red. Okay. Still having trouble hitting the arrows, which this experiment almost certainly explains why we didn't see arrows anywhere else. I will say, though, this system of walking around is way better than the crew quarter system of walking around. So purple, blue, yellow, green, red. Awesome, solved it. Good work. Looking at the screen. Oh, wait, what's this? The save password. Alright, now. So, red, green, blue, yellow, purple? Wasn't it purple, blue, yellow, green, red? We know it's this. So maybe it's red, green, purple, blue, yellow. I'm trying to put in the cat password backwards. Maybe it was purple first. There's something else to do, certainly. Is it the colors here? Could it be red, white, yellow, green? Or am I supposed to put the code in backwards? See, the thing is, there's almost always just the exact opposite answer for the cold file. Right. So red, green, yellow, blue, purple. 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 Just keep repeating it to ourselves. Red, green, yellow, blue, purple. So we can remember it. Of course, I could make a memo too. Red, green, yellow, blue, purple. Okay, so that's not it. Let's try red, white, yellow, green. Red, white, yellow, green. No, it has to be 5. Okay. So, if it's not the backwards order on the stream, then it's got to be the size of it, which would definitely make green the first one if we're going to end on red, which I think we should end on red. And then it's going to be somewhere around green, yellow, either purple or blue, and then red. So let's go blue, purple, red, green, yellow, blue, purple, red. Did I just put in that same thing? Green, yellow, purple, blue, red. Alright, do we go the opposite way? Red, purple, blue, green, yellow? No, that wouldn't be it. Be something closer to this. And I'm just more willing to brute force something than to go through the effort of looking up the answer. But we'll do it anyways. You could have easily solved this just by being handed a note instead of being left to your own devices to make notes. And if this wasn't a 3DS game, you would obviously know. Wow, I forgot purple is really small. Alright, so we need to kind of think about the size of purple versus green. It's got to be green, purple, and then yellow, blue, red. It's either green, purple, yellow, blue, red, or purple, green, yellow, blue, red. Of course, that still gives you like 4 possible options. Green, purple, yellow, blue, red. Let's see. Green, purple, yellow, blue, red. Purple, green, yellow, blue, red. Let's see. Going backwards. Red, blue, yellow, purple, green. Hey, I thought so. You did it. Hey, check out the screen. Whoa, what's going on? The screen's changed. So it seems like even in the second round, there's lots of instances where people who aren't in the group haven't seen that secondary code, and they're pretty much just assuming that that will be a scenario always. This is a safe, right? Well, it looks like one. At least the safe looks like the one in the crew quarters too. I'm barely reading this at this point. Let's see if we can get it open. So we're not going to make this same mistake. We're going to go with the key on the right first. So sun, moon, moon. 1, 2, 3. 1, 1. And we'll do that going forward. Yes, you opened it. You did it. Good job, Sigma. And so that means since we've unlocked those early, now we are slightly even further away from the point when we really should be reading this stuff. So here we have Ice 9 is a special form of water with a melting point of 36 degrees Celsius. In other words, it freezes at room temperature. The idea of Ice 9 was originally put forth by an American scientist fiction author, Kurt Vonnegut. His version of Ice 9 has a melting point of 45.8 degrees Celsius. Actually, there's a rumor that says all the water in Alice's body is actually Ice 9. Who knows whether it's true or not, but if it is, then she always has to keep her body temperature above 36 degrees Celsius, which, based on the state of her dress, I don't see how she's warming herself up with clothing or anything if all the water in her body is Ice 9. And yeah, it's still a very weird integration of the story and the red herrings that were in the first game to mention Ice Nine in this case, because I don't think it's really going to play a role. And even if it did play a role, then you have to explain whether Alice really is this frozen Egyptian princess or whether she's something else completely, or this is a completely different Alice than the Alice that they were talking about in the first game. Oops. H, this refers to Gentaro Hongal. He was one of the characters who appeared in 9 Persons, 9 Hours, 9 Persons, 9 Doors. He was the person who supervised the kidnapping of the children who participated in the Nonary Games in 2018. He is the CEO of Cradle Pharmaceuticals and a devoted follower of Free the Soul. Well, that's new information that they've just tapped on. And once again, you have a problem here where they're showing the character as he was drawn, or at least depicted in a photograph in the previous game, as a flat 2D character, which makes no sense now. Morphogenic field theory. Blah, 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 blah. Pause now if you want to read this. In the Zero Escape series, people who can communicate by accessing this field are known as Espers. That's pretty much all I think we need to know. Immunoglobulin is an important part of the body's defense against viruses and other invaders. It identifies and neutralizes certain threats. The IG replicator found in the lab gets its name from immunoglobulin. So we now know what that device does, I guess, maybe. Although this is extra stuff, so it doesn't matter. Factorization is the process of reducing numbers to a series of numbers that, which multiplied together, gives the original number. When taken to its logical conclusion, this will yield a list of prime numbers. For the purposes of factorization, 1 is not considered a prime. So, therefore, 210 equals 2 times 3 times 5 times 7. But 107 is a prime number. So, it just equals 107. Asterisks, and then different kind of asterisks at the bottom. 2, 3, 5, 7, and 107 can be divided by themselves in 1, which makes them primes. I don't know how that's going to play in this story, and I don't feel like factorization really even played a role in the previous story. Honestly, I don't want to have to do such complicated math, because that does sound very much like a nightmare scenario. And I guess in factorization also you can repeat the same numbers. Let's see. A relatively well-known Latin phrase. It might look like it's talking about a pair of sexy toaster waffles, but it actually means something like what you are, I was, what I am, you will be. Sometimes used as an epitaph. The implication is that the person in question was alive, like the reader, but that the reader will someday also be dead. A little ominous, I guess. We also never found that key. Interesting. SOIS, Special Office of Internal Security, is an elite intelligence organization under the jurisdiction of the Defense Department. They investigate potential disruptive or dangerous elements. It'd be weird if you found this stuff before you found the Clover ending, but that seems to be the case, and many times we're getting information that's just not getting explained to us. Their stated purpose is to maintain peace, but their character authorizes them to arrest, detain, or even kill. Scary. And what's funny here is you see Alice in like an actual outfit. So, like, sure, maybe her jacket might be exposing her belly, and maybe she has a shirt that's not covering that up in this black and white image, but she looks much more realistic. It would almost make sense if the game, as part of the Nonary game, they just woke up in the crazy outfits. But it really seems like there's a decent chance that Alice and Clover were out on some mission or something. So I'm trying to see if there's... Luna, look, Luna, it's Sigma's house. Is that true, Sigma? Is this shed your house? You must be going through a rough town. That's a funny, I guess, joke. We kind of skipped so many things that we didn't even do anything. Is there possibly any place where we could have used a metal detector? We don't even have the coins anymore, so we couldn't even use the scales. So he's teasing Luna. Or flirting with Luna. Yeah, it feels like... It'll break through the ceiling eventually. So I guess if we wait for the trees to grow, they'll eventually... Like, I don't think they would grow through the ceiling, though. That seems unbelievable. Now, I'm trying to see if there's any point. Like, we have no items, and we have no keys, so... And it feels unbelievable that the old lady would be buried there. Or that Zero Senior would be buried there. And that somehow just died of old age. I don't think... Yeah, we can't mess with the panel anymore. So unless this is a case where we get the silver key and go search the grave at the end of this escape room, we're leaving that grave and that lock as just some future thing to search, probably as, let's see, it's 3 suns, probably as a key point that would unlock a timeline. But there's kind of no reason to drag your feet either. We need to just move forward. There's plenty of dialogue later. Whoa, it opened again. Is there something inside? Yeah, looks like there's a picture of maybe that's a map of floor B. Do we have a map of floor B yet in the storyline? Maybe not. Or maybe it's a map of what order you should go through. There's a lot of stuff in here. Let's have a look at it then. First off, this looks like a map. On the upper left it says floor B. That map we found in the crew quarters said floor A, so A is the top floor and B is the bottom. I mean, we took the elevator down to get here, so, right? Let's keep going. It's a little surprising that people would immediately assume or know that a map they're looking at actually represents the place they are in, considering we have been in just one chromatic door in the hallway between the chromatic door and the botanical garden. Let's keep going. There are more things in the safe. This is the key cards. Has a moon on it. That means, yes, this is the moon card that the announcement was talking about. Then there's 2 of them here, just like the sun card. You should take one, Alice. Why? Well, you're solo. So even the Ambidex games, I guess I've been somewhat ignorant of this, is it starts with the sun and then the lunar eclipse would block out the sun, So that creates the moon cards, and then you see the stars. So it almost makes me wonder if the lunar eclipse is hinting that we are going to literally look in the sky and see something written in the stars. You're a solo Luna, I take one and you take the other, right? Thanks. So what else have we got next? Looks like a piece of paper. What is this? Okay. Seems like a pattern to me. You have a top, well, bottom dot says Nevada test site. Is that where we are now? And then that seems to, well, actually, if you look at the kind of ground signal, or the arrow pointing down where the circle says Nevada test site, that then curves to the left up. Well, why am I? Can I move the cursor? No, I can't. And that's labeled as A also. So point A goes up and then hits point B, then rounds around point C, and then it skips over a line and hits point D. Then it goes back up to point B, and then it goes around back to A, and then it collides at a point E, which at point E, it seemingly could either go up to point D and out the top, or to the right and up the top. What is this? Some kind of diagram. Doesn't make any sense. I wonder what it is. Yeah, I don't know either. Oh well, just forget about it for now. We can always come back to it later. There's 2 more things in here. What's this? Looks like a note. It says IG equals immunoglobulin. What's immunoglobulin? It's another word for antibody. You mean this thing, the things in your body that fights off bacteria and viruses and stuff? Yes. So, what is it supposed to tell us? Honestly, I have no idea. It's funny that a piece of paper just explaining a word is somehow going to change the timeline. The only thing left is the key. This must be the key to the exit. Yes, I think you're right. We should use it to open the door. Awesome. What are we waiting for? Well, for the sake of throwing this, I want to come back here and see if we can maybe look at the gravestone. So far I found 1 star. Oh, apparently I was supposed to find all the stars. No, I didn't do that. Interesting. So yeah, some definite hints that I would have gotten had I actually clicked on the stars, so I'll have to remind myself. I feel like I'm getting increasingly bad at doing these escape rooms now, and I don't know if that's just because the escape rooms are getting more difficult or what. Let's see if we can unlock the door. The light on. Light off. No, we cannot. So, yeah, we're just gonna leave the gravestone. Says lock on, it's probably locked by door. Alright, let's open the door. Yes, let's. Please do. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. We found it. We found the way out. Now we can go back to actually linear voice dialogue. No sooner had we stopped out of the garden than I saw 3 people I'd watched leave through the green door sometime earlier. Whoa. What are you guys doing here?
We ought to be asking you the same thing. How'd you get here?
Sigma, hand me the map.
Okay. Map. All right. I dug the map out of my pocket and spread it out in front of us.
You 3 came in through the blue door, right?
Yeah.
And which room did you go into?
This fan-shaped one called the Bee Garden.
Bee garden?
This is big dome with a bunch of plants in it. Look, you can go see it yourself later. All right.
What about you guys?
Well, after we went through the green door, we ended up in the treatment center.
Interesting. So they ended up in the treatment center, not a different room. Which makes me think whoever went through the red door ended up in the laboratory. Which is probably what you would want. And then we met up. Right here.
So, what's the treatment center? It sounds a lot like the infirmary.
You want to have a look? We can go back to any of the rooms we've already visited.
So we go back to the treatment center. And what will we find there? Sure, let's have a look. After a few moments of brisk walking, we found ourselves in the treatment center. The treatment center definitely can play a role, but at the moment, I don't think Quark is even showing any signs of being infected with Radical 6, so there's really no reason why we'd be enthusiastic about it.
They're why this is called a treatment center. Those pods can cure a number of illnesses and even repair certain injuries.
Interesting, repair certain injuries. Oh, that's
How
nuts.
about you climb in one of them, Dio?
Why?
Well, maybe it can fix whatever's wrong with your brain.
Hey, you want to start something, lady?
Calm down now, son. You don't cool off a bit, and I'll have to throw you in one of these pods here.
Huh? Why?
Weren't you paying attention? They have a cold sleep function. I figured that ought to cool your head up.
Wait, did you say cold sleep? That's where they freeze you, right? You can stay that way for a really long time, yeah.
According to some records we found in here, until about 8 hours ago, there were 3 frozen people in these pods.
3 people?
Yeah, 3 people, maybe not Alice.
You mean 3 of us were? We don't know. All we found was what was in the logs for the pods.
How long were they here?
No idea. Part of the logs were erased. All that's left is when the cold sleep function turned off. It records them thawing out, getting up. That's it.
Then they could be anyone.
Well, anyone but you.
Why not you? Wait, why not
Because
Alice?
you don't need a device like this to freeze Alice. Am I wrong?
Wow, so Timoji knows about the Ice 9? This is coming out of nowhere.
Huh? What are you talking about?
You don't need to play dumb. The water in your body isn't normal water. It's something called Ice 9.
How does he know any of
It
this?
freezes at 96.8 degrees.
Why are they jumping between Celsius and Fahrenheit?
That means all you have to do to put yourself in cold sleep is drop your body temperature below 96.8. No fancy machine needed.
Where on earth did you hear that?
This is a crazy out of nowhere revelation.
From Clover.
Ah, so Clover just told us.
Clover?
When we were exploring the lounge during the first round.
I see.
So, Clover spilled the beans to Timoji very quickly.
What's so funny?
Oh man, you fell for that one hook, line, and sinker, didn't you?
Yeah, I don't see how it really benefits the story to bring Ice 9 back into it. So, if this is a lie, I'd be willing to believe that Clover was just making fun of her.
Clover was messing with you. That is, if she even said anything to you at all. It was a lie. A joke?
A joke? No, there's no way it was a joke. I'm sure about it. Your body is made of Ice 9.
Well, you're mistaken. It's a ridiculous misunderstanding. An urban legend.
With seemingly no other prompting else left, launched into a lengthy explanation. It went something like this. At some point in the past, someone had found a frozen, mummified Egyptian queen. What was curious about this mummy, however, was that it remained frozen at room temperature. People began to refer to her as All Ice, which eventually became Alice. Rumors that her body was made of Ice 9 began to circulate, and her bizarre refusal to thaw only compounded them.
They say that the mummy finally thawed, and when it did, it began to move. And ever since then, I've had people say they thought I was her.
Yeah. Okay. So, take your pick so far until we get bigger revelations. Either they're retconning things and Alice here isn't actually the mummy, which, okay, that's somewhat believable, but also we were intentionally misled to believe the opposite of that. Or Alice is just totally lying and she is the frozen Egyptian queen. Her outfit feeling slightly Egyptian at least also certainly does not argue against that idea.
I mean, really? How could anyone believe something so ridiculous?
There's so many ridiculous things that turned out to be true in the previous game, though. It's kind of silly not to believe it.
The existence of this mysterious Alice and of this ice that doesn't melt are just urban legends.
But why would people make that mistake about you in particular?
It can't just be because your name's Alice. There are tons of Alices.
Is it because of your face and how you look?
Well, I mean, she does look somewhat unique, but she hardly stands out as a unique human amongst billions.
Well, it is true that I am both beautiful and elegant. Can I really be blamed if people think I'm an Egyptian queen? I don't think that's the only reason, though. Someone who made that mistake said something to me once. They claimed they'd seen me before.
So it also could be a case, I guess, here that Alice doesn't even know who she is.
Of course, I immediately pressed the issue. Do you mean the mummy, Alice? I said. When? Where? Of course, they were at a loss. In fact, I began to feel a little sorry for them. So I told them something. If you're so convinced, then maybe I am actually Alice. But maybe I've lost my memory and can't remember who I am. And so on and so on. I'm still not sure why Clover would tell you something like that, though. Even if she was just messing with you, it seems a little out of left field.
It is totally out of left field.
You really think she put that much thought into it? She was probably just screwing with him, and it was the first thing that came to mind. Maybe she wanted to see if she could get him to believe something completely ridiculous.
Yeah, I could see her doing something like that.
Or, because of the timeline hopping, she felt a subconscious need to explain this to Moji and the group later on.
Well, I think that's enough idle gossip for now. The cold sleep business is interesting, but I don't think it's terribly useful. We should go see if the other team has returned to the warehouse yet.
So they just haven't even thought about the idea of freezing people, because it seems like right now the freezing system works. At Alice's request, we made our way out of the treatment center. Like, it would make great sense to just start freezing people and taking the bracelets off. That would save pretty much everybody, because nobody's been murdered yet. So we make it to floor B. Are we gonna read the thing on the wall this time? Probably not. This is...
Looks like another warehouse.
It looks like the same warehouse.
Hey, look.
3 more doors.
They're all glowing white. You think?
So are they gonna try and force the door still? These might be the next
I
chromatic
bet on
doors.
it. Look, they've got the same boxes next to them as the other doors. So the next set of doors are white?
They haven't all been the same color before.
We definitely need to tell the others about this.
Right, let's head back to floor A. Very, very short conversation there. And then a transition for not a great reason. Then another transition for not a great reason. And then another transition. Yeah, I'm just sitting here in silence. There's like literally nothing to say when you're just spending 20 seconds watching a transition after transition after transition. Unless they find the old lady's dead body here,
Goodness.
then there's the only real danger right now is the bomb, and that might stop Kay from potentially leaving if he gets 9 points, because he'd be afraid that the bomb would go off before he brought help back. But I also wouldn't be surprised if it also acts as a motivator for somebody else to escape.
You finally returned. I was beginning to get anxious.
Did something happen?
Yes. It's Quark, you see. He...
What?
Is he disappeared or is he sick?
What happened to Quark?
He collapsed. It happened so suddenly. We were just searching our room.
What?
Please, you must hurry to the infirmary. Clover is looking after him, but his condition could change at any moment.
So Clover is looking after
should
Quark.
Oh no.
Which, you're in a weird position there where Clover would be the pick over Kay to look after a kid, considering she's pretty much barely a kid herself, or barely an adult herself, if she actually is 21 or even 18. Tomoji shoved Kay aside and left through the yellow door. The rest of us exchanged a few startled looks, then ran after him.
Quark. Come on, kid.
So, have we even had the conversation where Luna has a medical license and can use this device? Tomoji grabbed Quark's shoulders and began to shake him desperately. It was Clover who stopped him.
Hey, what are you doing? He's sick, and we don't even know what's wrong with him. What if you make him worse?
Then what am I supposed to do? I have to save him.
Save? That seems a little extreme. Maybe he just has anemia or something.
No, that's not it.
So is he going to admit he knows he has Radical
I know it
6?
better than any of you. He doesn't have anemia. He's never just collapsed before.
Well, then call an ambulance and stop freaking out about it.
You son of a bitch. This is serious.
The infirmary seems pretty well equipped. There are plenty of diagnostic tools, but without a doctor, there's not going to be much we can do with him.
Alright. Well, we've got Luna, so your Sigma is going to have some memories from a different timeline.
Luna?
That's right. I remember Dio saying something. You have a medical license, don't you?
Wait, really? Is that true, Luna? Well, yes, but...
She never really tells you what she has. I feel like she's a veterinarian or something.
You have to take a look at him then. Please. Quark needs your help.
Okay, I'll see what I can do. I think that machine over there is a medical scanner.
It's either she's a veterinarian or she has a medical license, but it's suspended because she's murdered a patient intentionally.
It's called an atom. It uses nuclear magnetic resonance.
Yeah, do we
imaging to
need this
confirm the
extra
diagnosis.
explanation this really feels like a game where there isn't enough QA, because had the actual creators of this game been forced to play it over and over again, play sections over and over again, and do quality assurance testing, I feel like at some point they would have said, hey, let's save ourselves some time. And maybe that is exactly how they did QA it, is that they took all the dialogue out and all the novel sections out, and for them, they did not have the experience that a real player would have. Or maybe they played only the small branches and small sections and didn't ever play the full game from beginning to 100% completion. Because I feel like had anybody played the whole thing from beginning to completion, people would have realized there's just a lot of duplicate dialogue here that's unnecessary, a lot of jargon, and maybe the Japanese like that, and maybe in Japanese it's nowhere as long or as annoying as it is to a Westerner who doesn't play visual novels. But at a certain level, I think even though visual novels are incredibly popular right now, if they were going to ever reach a new level of quality, they should start selling themselves on the concept of, instead of 40,000 or 80,000 words, it should be perhaps closer to 10,000 unique lines of dialogue, because each sentence or line of dialogue probably is about 10 words, and repeating it to get the numbers up is not quality delivery.
Yes, I believe it can. I don't want to rush you, but the sooner the better.
Yeah, even like movies and TV shows in the West have more recently stopped being as repetitive as they once were. It just assumes that the viewer can get it. Netflix is certainly a factor around that, because if you're watching something on Netflix, you very easily can go back to the previous episode and see what you missed, or rewind if you've missed a line of dialogue. Whereas previously, if something was being broadcast in the days before people could record broadcasts with their digital video recorders, if you missed an episode or missed even a single line of dialogue in an episode, you missed it forever, and they would often come back and recap, and you'd have a previously on before each episode.
Just let us know if you need anything.
Also, in fairness, there's probably an increase in the number of shows in the West where each episode stands on its own and nothing really happens anyways. You don't need a previously on some procedural crime scene investigation show, because nothing is different and nothing's changed. There's just the case of the week and that's it.
Of course.
Let's get back to actually listening to a dialogue. Whole process only took a few minutes. Machine scanned Quark's body, and we're once again still in a situation where we have seen enough deviation for us to believe that it will split and say something different from what we've seen before. Was too complicated for me to understand. Scrolled across it as she read them. Luna's face grew dark. She bit her lip and stood there for a moment, looking down at Quark before she spoke.
Well, I know what's wrong with him. I feel so terrible saying this, but Quark has an infection. A viral infection.
Oh no.
Oh no. Don't tell me.
Yes. He's been infected with a virus called Radical 6.
Wow, this might be the first time we've heard that sound effect in this music. Maybe not. Probably not. I probably just haven't heard it in a while. Have you heard of this virus? Radical 6, I mean?
Yeah. I told Alice and Tenmyoji about it.
Vi and I heard about it from Luna.
Dio and Luna were the first two people to investigate the infirmary. They must have seen the newspaper clipping that Quark found. I'd stay behind after the AB game and they'd all split up to go in different rooms. It seemed like one way or another everyone had heard about Radical 6. And I guess this is the only branch in which that's the case, whereas in other instances other people hadn't heard about it, but it didn't seem to really matter.
No. He can't. How could he have gotten infected? That's not possible.
Something about the tone of his voice seemed strange. Why wasn't it possible? Had Timoji known about Radical 6 before the rest of us?
There must be something we can do. How can we cure him?
Well, Adam says there's an antiviral serum called Excelivir. It's the only way to counteract Radical 6. If we can inject him with some, he should.
There should be Excelivir in the laboratory.
Where is it? Shouldn't it be in the infirmary somewhere?
We looked around, but we didn't see anything.
I don't trust a damn thing you say. I'm asking Luna.
I'm sorry, but Leo's telling the truth. We didn't find anything.
Damn it.
Well, did Kay and Quark investigate the laboratory or investigate somewhere
What
else?
about the other rooms? Sigma, what about you? Did you find anything?
No, nothing like medicine. I mean, it was just like a park. Lots of vegetation and stuff, but no medicine.
What about you, Kay? Was there any medicine in your room?
We visited the laboratory.
So there's basically no way they didn't find Excelivir. Because I think it was in the safe. Wasn't it? Or was it in the treatment room? No, it was definitely in the laboratory.
There were a number of chemicals and concoctions there, some of which were medicine, but nothing like what we're searching for, I'm afraid.
So why did Kay not find the Excelivir in the laboratory? Did Quark hide it, or is Kay lying?
God. He's going to... Oh, God, no.
So we once again get put in this position where we have to assume either Quark or Kay is 0. And if Kay is 0, then in almost every timeline he basically takes no action at all and just escapes as soon as he can. Look, just to be sure, the three of you who went to the treatment center, the three of you went to the treatment center, right? And you're sure it wasn't there?
No, there was nothing even remotely like it. You went there too, didn't you? The only thing in the treatment center are those treatment pods.
Treatment pods. That's it. If we put Quark in one of those pods... For a moment there was a silence.
Quark?
Quark. Well, this will be funny if Quark actually succeeds in stabbing himself in this timeline.
Oh, thank God.
And then he's got the scalpel. We picked up a paring knife and then lost a paring knife. We saw handcuffs. We've seen lots and lots of weapons just appear and then disappear.
Awake.
Get away from me!
What?
I can't.
After what? What are you talking about?
Isn't it obvious? I have to escape.
But how?
Is this going to be any different?
This!
Quark's hand moved like lightning. He grabbed a hold of the scalpel and was driving it straight toward his heart. Stop. Blah, blah, blah.
No!
Let's jump through all of this because I've yet to see this change.
Yeah, right.
Me too. Stop it! Let go of me, you jerk!
So it seems like there's like no timeline when Quark doesn't get infected, except for the timeline where he goes missing.
Oh. Right.
Damn you, bastard!
Which is believable
We have to get out of
because
this
I think you get into a way too much of a branching path. If there was a path where Quark just was never infected with Radical 6.
I'm trapped here.
And it very well may just be a case that because Quark is the youngest, he's infected and show symptoms of Radical 6 way faster than the other characters in this story. Everybody could have been affected at the same. Good, thanks whoever that was. In this case, it wasn't Clover who took it. Quark barely even seemed to notice the loss of the scalpel. He continued to scream and writhe like he was possessed. What are we gonna do? We've got to calm him down.
Yes?
Are there any tranquil?
No. Well, I mean,
What?
there's Superel.
Soperil?
That's the anesthetic. The one that's in our bracelets.
So,
Good. Perfect. Hit him with.
What?
He'll be fine. It's just
some
an
in this
anesthetic.
timeline, somebody
Don't
grabs
hurry
the
him, I
scalpel. It
promise.
might not be Clover.
Just hurry up and do it. Come on, Luna.
Okay, let me just. Okay, I've got it.
Interesting. I don't recall hearing those sound effects
Good.
before, but once again, I
Wait
probably
until
was
he's- Now, do it
skipping
now.
some of this.
No! Stop! Stop!
Yeah, I don't see a reason why sound effects wouldn't have played in different novel sections when the exact same dialogue and events are happening.
Respiration, blood pressure, brain waves, everything's
The
fine.
sound effects are good,
According to these
certainly.
readings, he's in a very
I would not have ever skimped on the budget to hire a Foley artist type person to put in digital sound effects for whenever anything was happening, because there's so few sound effects used and actions taken in the game
What about
anyways.
the anesthetic?
I might consider making the running sound effect a little bit more subtle, and maybe the door opening sound effect a little bit more subtle.
How long will it last?
But I think all of that's fine. I seriously doubt the budget went to sound effects.
Shouldn't wake up for a few
Way more of the
hours.
budget would have gone to the voice acting, and I wouldn't cut on the voice acting budget either.
Man, he sure was strong for such a little guy.
I think that might be the virus's fault. It probably
Just
affects the part of the
still
brain that governs reason.
Going through the same part.
How do you know?
Let's keep on trying to skip.
Well,
How much do you know about this Radical 6?
oh, not much.
Hmm.
I probably know about as much as you do. All I've seen about it is that newspaper article.
That the truth? Question
Why
mark?
would I lie about that? I've seen other viruses do the same thing. I was just making a guess.
So when Park tried to kill himself, are you saying that was because of Radical 6 too?
Yes, at least I think so.
So what kind of virus is Radical 6? Nobody knows, or nobody should know.
What are you doing?
Tomoji starts saying something different here. I turned and followed Tomoji's gaze. There stood Alice, her hand wrapped tightly around the scalpel. Apparently she had been the one to take it away from Quark. The longer I looked at her, however, the more I wondered if she'd taken it to protect him or for some other more sinister reason. Oh wait, so I guess in this timeline we're finally going to see Alice kill herself because of Radical 6, which almost makes me wonder if Alice didn't kill herself in every single timeline. She didn't seem stable. In fact, she looked far more like Quark had a moment ago than I was entirely comfortable with. Her eyes were flat and hollow. Her face was a motionless mask. She was not well. Alice? Hey, are you feeling okay?
We're all going to die. We're all dead already. Only terrorists would resort to biological warfare. But they will. Soon.
Hey, what the hell are you talking about?
So this definitely is different dialogue. I'd also say this specific depiction of Alice, for some reason, is flatter, like less polygonal, as it were, because she's not moving. So they at some point just rendered the 3D polygon character down to a flat 2D character. And when they did that, they almost certainly used a earlier version of it, because her head is considerably smaller than the way it normally is shown. Perhaps you could argue that's an angle. That's because the camera is slightly angled upward, which also barely makes any sense, because it makes Sigma feel like he's 4 feet high, and they are definitely trying to show her full outfit, but that once again seems like a less polished version of her outfit.
You don't understand?
Other stationary renders we've seen of Alice when she was dead felt more polygonal,
All of humanity
or didn't stand out.
die. The virus will spread. Adults, children, everyone. Everyone.
Everyone who isn't an adult or a child.
There won't be anyone left. I'd rather die here.
Wait, Alice. We were all too stunned to even try to restrain her. We just stood there as she spun around and left through the door. Damn it. Now she ran out the exit of the infirmary, which would put her in the hallway. I shook myself and took off after her. But those few moments of hesitation had put too much distance and too many doors between us. Poop. Which way did she go? Right. Or left? I was still trying to decide when everyone else poured out into the infirmary.
You lost her.
Yeah. I don't know which way she
Well,
went.
let's split up and look. Quickly. She can't have gotten too far.
Right.
Yeah, in this kind of scenario, you should have just picked a direction and
If
run.
you find her, it's probably best not to shout or anything. Just do your best not to provoke her. Understood? Tell me,
Gotcha.
Edgy, I think you should stay here with Quark. The rest of us can look for Alice. Sound good?
Yeah, I stay here. Got it.
All right, let's move, people. Get going.
So it doesn't even say left or right. I thought perhaps the left or right would be the split, but there's kind of more novel section here, so I think we are just going to end up doing one more AB game regardless of whether Alice kills herself or not, which typically is the case. At Fi's command, we scattered filtering off in different doors. As I ran, I thought, where should I look for Alice? Perhaps the lounge would be a good bet. So I go to the lounge. Not gonna find her here. They're not gonna animate Alice dead in 3 different places. We've already seen 2. No one here, huh? Damn. Where'd she go? Complaining wasn't gonna help anything. Needed to look somewhere else. So then you run back in the hall instead of running into the main warehouse. And apparently you're going downstairs now? This is a fairly dangerous situation if everybody's infected with Radical 6 and at any point could turn suicidal, because there's really no checks you can put in place to stop that. You could try and partner people up, certainly, but if both people get infected with Radical 6 and become suicidal, that doesn't help anything. If Alice's body really did have all ice in it, or ice 9 in it, I don't think we've seen any scenario or place where we could cool her down and have her freeze. Why are we flashing back? Well, that was a quick flashback. I need to hurry. Headed to the garden next. In a weird way, I'm going everywhere except for the crew quarters. I'd only gone a few steps from the walkway, though, the grass when I stopped short. So she is in the garden, but apparently not stabbed in the chest. Interesting. Alice.
Here you are. Good. I'm glad you showed up. I just
Huh?
got here a minute ago. She was like this when I found her. When you showed up, I was getting ready to carry her to the infirmary.
Then she's alive? Yeah.
Her breathing and pulse seem normal. She doesn't appear to have any obvious external wounds.
So she's just unconscious. What about the
Doesn't look
scalpel?
like she has it. Figure she probably dropped it on the way here. Anyway, we need to get her to the infirmary.
So she ran away and dropped the scalpel, and now anybody can
Give me a
pick it
hand
up.
here.
Which that might just be the way the scalpel gets eliminated from the story. Alice was later than I expected, and Fly and I managed to set off toward the infirmary at a brisk trot. ... They might as well have just put the ... dots on the same line, since there's always two of them.
All right, please pay attention.
But I guess they
everyone.
all also intentional breaks, so you don't just button mash too much. And here we get a different depiction of Alice. Once again, her head seems smaller than it should be, but this is much more polygonal as we are more zoomed in. And we can see her weird necklace slash... I would imagine it's supposed to be like gold chain kind of fabric, golden frills that's acting as a barely a bra. We're getting like, oh man, we're getting, I would say, potentially 75% of a boob exposed here, in the under boob and side boob action. And we can't actually see the cleavage part. You're putting it well over 80-90% of actual skin being shown. Although, is percentage of breast flesh the right metric? If there should be even a metric for how much is too much? Is there a too much? That all comes down to people's own personal societal beliefs, I suppose. But it is, I think, for a video game, a standout, to say the least. And it's unlikely to become commonplace that we see characters like this.
You need to hear this. The Atom has finished scanning Alice.
Let's
did it
pay
say?
attention.
Her results are identical to Quark's. She has also been infected with Radical 6.
Her results are identical to Quark's in the sense that she is also a 10-year-old boy. Like, I guess maybe she's just oversimplifying it there. This is the first timeline we've been in where they've realized more than one person was infected. On the way back, Fly had gone off to retrieve the rest of the participants. 7 sets of eyes widened as Luna spoke.
Oh no. No. What's going to happen to her? Well, like I said before, there's only one way to cure Radical 6. There's a special antiviral treatment. Do you know what immunoglobulin is?
Immunogoblin?
It's another name for antibodies. Some people have antibodies that can fight off Radical 6.
Who has antibodies in this group, though?
Those antibodies are the basis for Excelivir.
Wait, what about those pods in the treatment center? Can't we just stick them in those?
Right. I thought of that too. So I went and took a closer look at them. Unfortunately,
They can't cure it.
correct. They can suppress the symptoms for a while, but they can't kill the virus itself. The only way we can help Alice and Quark is if we can find some Excelivir.
But the pods will keep them from getting any worse, right?
Yes.
Well, then what are we waiting for? One of you, grab Alice. We're going to the treatment center.
The problem here is only one of the pods, I think, works. So if we put 2 people in 2 pods, somebody is going to get killed due to the lack of oxygen, I think. As he spoke, Tomoji moved over to Quark and lifted a small unconscious body off the bed. but I guess we haven't figured that out yet. Quark shifted slightly as Tomoji moved him, and something fell out of his pocket with a soft clink. I bent down slowly and picked it up. Is this medicine?
What?
So Clover had taken the accelerator. Not Clover, Quark, so we know he's 0. Or at least he's very sneaky for some reason.
Well, what is it?
Hold on. There's a name on the label here. Accelerator.
Excelivir! You found it, Sigma! That's the one thing that can cure Radical 6.
Why did Quark have it?
Interesting.
Perhaps he found it earlier.
So we now we basically are getting confirmation at this point that Quark is
We
0.
explored the laboratory. It was on the other side of the red door. I happened to notice Quark putting something in his pocket.
He hid it.
Whether or not that was his intention is unclear. I did not have the opportunity to ask, as he collapsed immediately afterwards. It didn't feel appropriate to go digging around in his pockets for it after that. And to be honest, it had also slipped my mind. We were rather preoccupied with getting him to the infirmary as quickly as possible.
Of course, this also could be that K is 0 and K put the accelerator in Quark's pocket to shift blame
Who cares
or
about the
shift
details?
suspicion.
We have it. Hurry up and give it to him, Luna.
Hey, hold on a minute! What about Alice?
Does it really matter if she goes first or not?
I'm sorry, but I don't think we can do that.
What?
There's only enough here for one person. The only way we have to administer this is with the injection gun. And the way it functions, it uses a whole bottle each time you pull the trigger.
In other words, we can't split the dose in 2 or something.
Yeah, I don't know a great way you could do that. Like, you break off the top and then you would need a needle somehow if you had 2 of those bottles, or you wouldn't even need 2 of those bottles. If you just had a needle, you could take out half the medicine and give it half to one person and half to the others and hope that half doses would work, although typically the odds are not good that it would.
Right.
While we all stood stunned, Fi moved. Stepping over the Quark, she quickly ran her hands through his clothes and then stepped back with a frown and a small shake of her head.
Nothing. That one bottle was it.
So at least we now know that Quark has nothing else in his pockets. Did you think there might be some more back in the laboratory?
No, unfortunately not.
No.
Oh, God.
Just enough medicine for one dose.
Only one person can be saved.
It'd be interesting if the choice here is not to actually vote in the AB game, but instead to pick who gets the medicine. Although I wouldn't be surprised if I hit the button and go forward that it makes a sound saying the AB game starts right now. Although I don't know how anybody would even trigger an AB game if everybody's in the room and not opening the AB gate. So I don't know how there's a way that they could force the characters here to decide to go somewhere else. And I guess until the AB gate starts, they have an infinite amount of time. And there's like no countdown towards the chromatic doors opening or anything like that.
Alice?
Or maybe there is, we've just never seen any proof.
Quark?
What the hell is this? There's no way we're only going to save one of them.
What are we going to do?
Do I have to spell it out? We're going to save them both.
How?
That's, I need to calm down and see. I feel like what we're going to do is we're going to hit a point where we hit like one of these locked books that would have ended on a to be continued, much higher than any other of the to be continues we've seen, but it would explain why there are 2 rows of novel section here compared to almost every other branch, And in this case, since we already have the information, we'll just move forward. Think. There had to be some way to save both of them. It was there. I knew it. IG equals immunoglobulin.
Do you know what immunoglobulin is?
Yeah, I feel like we would have gotten a very different to be continued section here. But you're not really missing anything by not seeing that to be continued section.
It's another name for antibodies.
Not anything important.
Some people have antibodies that can fight off Radical 6.
And see, this is a different timeline because we were not in the laboratory, and we definitely were not in the laboratory with Dio. We have not been paired with Dio at all in this timeline. IG replicator.
Replicator makes it sound like it makes copies of stuff.
One question to ask here certainly is, could the Atom scan everybody in the game and tell who has the antibodies or not? Because otherwise, there's a weird argument that maybe you should inject a healthy adult to make the antibodies faster than the sick antibodies. But I guess since the accelerator is already made from antibodies, just copying that would be probably fine. So it's like a copy machine.
Yeah. Probably copies IG, whatever that is.
Any ideas?
Who knows? Ice cream by the gallon?
It's funny to have a flashback and then have one of the goofy joke sections in that flashback. That's feels weird. That's it. I've got it. The IG replicator in the laboratory. It's an immunoglobulin globulin replicator machine. It can copy immunoglobulin antibodies. Luna just said Axelver is made from antibodies. That means we can make more Axelver.
Hold on a moment. There is a strange device in the laboratory that says IG replicator on it. Clover and I examined it thoroughly when we were in that room.
Yeah. We never could figure out what it did, though.
Exactly. My question is, how do you know about it, Sigma?
Interesting. So they're going to immediately question him. I saw it when I was in the laboratory.
When was that?
Probably when you were looking for Alice, right?
Yeah, let's just go with that. No, Dio was wrong. I hadn't gone to the laboratory when I was looking for Alice. I didn't think I'd ever been to the laboratory. So how did I know about the IG replicator?
If what he's saying is true, then we should be able to duplicate the Excelsior. That would mean we could cure Alice and Quark.
And you should make 9 copies in total, so you have 1 extra and enough to inject everyone else who almost certainly is infected.
Let's go have a look then. The laboratory, right?
Yeah, no time to waste.
And they're just gonna leave Quark and Alice all alone? Wait, we can't leave them all here alone. Luna, do you think you could stay behind and look after them?
Oh, of course.
They didn't inject any soporol into Alice in particular, so she's gonna potentially wake up if they're not careful. Also, Luna might be 0, but I doubt it, so it'd be crazy if we left her alone and she murdered both of them.
I'd be happy to.
And the old lady sure is just not gonna show up in this story, I guess. Alright, let's go. The only other way I figured the story could have gone on is instead of replicating the Axelveer, we could have played an AB game and killed one of the characters, either Alice or Quark, and then that would have solved the problem in somebody's mind by somebody betraying. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's a possibility that in this flow timeline there is a completely different scenario when you don't know about the IG replicator. And I guess since you're alone, and whenever you're alone, you can sort of just lie about knowing things. Otherwise, you need to be smarter about it.
So this is the
And
lab, huh?
I'm not sure Sigma will be smarter about it.
Yes.
Where's this IG replicator thing?
I wouldn't be surprised if there's more to it than that. Right here, see?
So this can copy the Accelavir?
I think so.
What are we waiting for?
Calm down, alright? Don't rush me. I carefully load the small vial of Axavir into the slot on the side of the machine. An empty vial was already protruded from the other side. Presuming that was where the duplicated Axavir would go. Ready? When I push the button, it should...
Skip it. Just press the damn thing.
See, this would really suck if it just, like, messed up and used up the one dose. Right, and pressed. We don't know if there's some kind of base chemical, though, that is needed for the IG replicator to work in the other vial. Or if you could just potentially make more vials. Did it work?
Have a look.
Or find more vials?
The empty vial has something in it now.
Oh, I guess it was completely empty before. It looked like it might have like saline solution or something in
And
it.
the vial Sigma used remains as it was. It does not seem to have lost any of its contents.
So, it worked?
Would have been pretty bad if it hadn't.
Alright, let's get this thing back to the infirmary. I reach down and put both vials in front of the machine and intending to slip them definitely into my pocket. Oh shoot.
What happened?
Sorry. My hand slipped.
You dropped one of them?
Yeah. Just one though.
What in the hell? What if you'd broken it, you idiot?
Come on. If it broken, then we could have just made another copy. Before Tomoji could reply, Fi spoke.
Guys?
Guys? I was surprised to hear a voice coming from near my feet. I looked down to see her staring intently at something beneath the table. Is there a dead body? Is that where the old lady is?
You see? It did break.
No, the vial's fine. See?
Apparently I dropped the one with the label. She held it up with one hand but didn't move her eyes.
Then what the heck is going on down there?
Another bomb.
Take a look.
She slid back from the table quickly and silently. Then the rest of us bent down to look. A bomb.
Whoa. Really?
So we now know there are 2 bombs. And there's almost certainly a third. Maybe even a 4th.
That makes 2 then.
Guess Kay was right after all.
So there were more bombs.
So it would seem.
How did Dio get in here to place these bombs? Is the question. Like, it really implies that Dio snuck in, placed bombs all over the place, set up everything he possibly could have wanted to set up, then killed the old lady, then joined the Nonary game. It almost makes it questionable why he even bothered to join the Nonary game, other than maybe he needed to escape to activate the bomb to report back to they had been activated.
Was this here when you guys came through the first time?
No, it was not.
How do you know?
Yeah, I didn't see anything, and I looked real hard.
Then somebody must have said it while we were looking for Alice.
Well, where is Dio hiding these bombs then?
Who the hell would do that?
We were all out looking for Alice. It could have been any of us.
No, not any of us. I was back in the infirmary. Quark was still out, so I was keeping an eye on him.
So we shouldn't consider you a suspect. Is that right?
Yeah, Quark's off the list too.
But Tenmyoji, you have no proof that you spent the entire time in the infirmary, do you?
What?
This is why you never separate, never break up, never split up.
You could have quietly made your way to the laboratory, planted the bomb.
That's insane. Listen to yourself. There's no way in hell I'd have left Quark all by himself to go plant a goddamn bomb.
Tomoji was still staring furiously at Kay when Clover spoke up.
Hey, what's this thing?
I turned in time to see her grab something from under the table.
It looks like a memory card.
Yeah, it looks like one that would work in the infirmary, maybe.
Who was it?
Right under the bomb. It was down on the floor under the table.
Could it have been put here by the same person who set the bomb? There was nothing like it here when we examined this room.
Do you think they dropped it accidentally?
Unless it was left here intentionally, yes. I imagine so.
What do you think's on it?
Let's take a look. Could I see it for a minute?
Yeah, I guess so.
I plucked the card out of her hand and looked around the room. Nothing. Shoot. No dice. We'll need to plug it into something that can read memory cards, but I don't see anything
So
here.
what do we do?
Come on, if I knew that, I'd be doing it.
10 minutes remain until Ambidex Game polling closes.
What? How did nobody hear them announce that the Ambidex game had started?
All players, please enter your votes.
It was like 45 minutes you got before.
No vote is recorded before the deadline has passed. Any non-voting parties will automatically ally.
Guys, I think maybe we should get back to the top floor.
How could somebody have started the AB game and the announcement not be heard?
You're right.
Am I just... Did I just forget? Like, at what point did... Like, we did the escape room. Somebody would have had to sneak off when they were searching for Alex and open an AB gate. And here we can see there isn't enough antiviral medication, lock number 4, and we are moving forward with the story with no to be continued
Got what we
section.
came here for.
What should we do about the, bomb?
Not much we can do except leave it here. Alice said it'd be dangerous to touch them.
Yeah, I don't know why you would need 3 bombs anyways.
True, but
Drop it. We can talk about the bombs later. Right now we need to take care of Alice and Quark.
Right, so we'll go back to Infirmary, give them the Alexavir, and then head to Floor 8 warehouse. And nobody's even going to question who opened the gates. It almost certainly seems like it had to have been Luna,
It might
but it
take
could have
them a
been
while,
anybody.
But they should recover.
Her voice was quiet as she backed away from Alice and Quark. In her hands was an injection gun. She carefully removed the empty vial and placed it gently in the cabinet with the other one. Honestly, I guess if there was only 2 vials, it doesn't matter, because you could have taken the injection gun easily to the laboratory, copied the Alexavir into the empty vial, then injected the empty vial into one person, injected into the, used the IG machine to duplicate more, ejected again into the next person. You wouldn't even have to take the original Alexavir ever out of the machine after you once put it in there. And so you could continuously just use the same vial over and over again. One assumes that would be sterile enough, as it were. The biggest danger would be the injection gun's needle itself that goes into the flesh. While you're in the laboratory, Luna moves Quark to a crude cot. They both look peaceful as they slept. Madness I'd seen in their faces before was completely gone.
Are they really going to be all right?
I suppose if 2 people are on cots recovering from Radical 9 and then 3 people get put in treatment pods, then that gets you to 5 out of 9 people that might slowly get healed from Radical 6, but they didn't really think this all the way through.
Yes. The analysis I did on the files confirmed that the duplicate was real Excelavir. The original was genuine too, of course. Now that they've been treated...
It's only a matter of time before the virus is eliminated.
And their antibodies maybe could be pulled out, but they don't have a needle to pull out blood and isolate antibodies and do all the things you would need to do to take their antibodies and inject it into someone else. You could probably, with the level of understanding of the characters, just do a simple blood transfusion and that's it.
I believe so, yes.
And that if you did a blood transfusion with Alice, since she actually does have all ice in her, or ice 9 in her, then there is a possibility that lots of people are going to end up getting frozen forever.
Oh man, what a relief. I was really worried.
Clover not playing much of a part in this story, which is fine. We've seen her ending. Agreed. I gave her a reassuring pat on the back.
5 minutes remain until Ambidex Game polling closes.
They really make this whole facility seem like it's much bigger than it seems like it is.
All right, everybody.
If it takes 5 minutes to walk down a hallway
Be relieved later.
when you're running.
Right now, we need to get to the AB rooms and fast.
Damn. Don't even have time to catch our breath.
Come on, let's go. The floor A warehouse is waiting. Then we get pointless transitions. I don't even remember what the scores are, so. And it still doesn't seem like the room's changed. So the dead lady seems like she still is in the far right room. If she's there at all. Dot 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 dot. Huh? Where's Timoji?
Oh, he stayed back in the infirmary.
What?
Why?
Well, when we were all heading out, I noticed he wasn't doing anything. So I asked him if he was coming with us. And this is what I got.
I'm still worried about Quark and Alice. I think I'll stick around and make sure they're okay.
I see. That means that Phi's only opponent will be Dio.
One-on-one, huh?
Ugh.
Which pretty much means Phi and Dio are going to betray each other.
That's cool. Nothing to worry about. I plan to choose Ally.
I don't know if I believe Dio, or should believe Dio ever.
You know why?
Because I've only got one BP.
Exactly. If you chose Ally and I betrayed you, your BP would drop below 0 and, well, we know what happens then.
Does he have 6 points, though? Where he would get 9 points and escape regardless?
I want to win, but I'm not that desperate. You see what I'm saying, right?
Tenmyoji and Dio are a pair. Tenmyoji only had one BP left. Since Dio said he's going to pick Ally, Phi can't really pick anything else.
Oh, she can't. She can't betray, otherwise she'll kill Tenmyoji, and I don't think Phi would do that.
If she does, Tenmyoji will...
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
So they're both forced into
You and I
Ally.
are going to be going one-on-one too, right? Since Quark's still sleeping.
That is correct.
How many BP do you guys have?
I've got 6.
As do I.
This'll be a tough one then.
If one of them can get the other to Ally, and then betray that person, the betrayer will have 9 points. Look, Kay, I know you don't really have any reason to trust me, but...
I know. You would like us both to vote Ally, yes?
Yeah.
I agree. If we were to both betray, then we would gain no points. We would lose nothing either, but that's hardly relevant. If both of us cooperate, then we will both gain 2 points, which is much more beneficial.
Which, we don't know how many points Quark has.
Right. Okay, good. You're really gonna do it, right?
Yes,
Promise?
We'll see.
promise.
We'll see how they vote.
1 minute remains.
And then we lost 4 minutes in that conversation.
Closes.
Who opened the AB gate, though? When?
Shit, this is bad. We need to move, now.
Indeed. Shall we?
DOK, Fi, and Clover all took off immediately, heading for different AB rooms. Counting from the left, Dio went into room 3, K went into room 4, Fi and Clover went into room 5 and 6. So Clover should be in the room with the dead lady, respectively. That left Luna and myself. What do you think about taking the one on the far left?
Sounds good.
We open it, so either they've been moved, and we find the dead body, or somebody else does, and either reports it or doesn't. With that said, we open AB room number 1. Interesting, so that's leaving one AB room number 2 closed. So, has there been just kind of this random shuffle that has happened where the dead body is just constantly being hidden? It seems like it.
30 seconds remain.
But the only way you would have really been able to pull that off is if you knew who was going in which room, when.
It's probably a little late to say this, but
It feels like if you were going to play this trick where they shuffled the AB rooms around to hide the dead body, then somebody, probably Dio, who killed her, we fairly know that's the case, should have suggested that we always go in the same AB rooms we came out of, just as a rule. Just offhandedly suggest that, just so there isn't an argument, and then that way he could go into the same room and see the dead body each time and not report it.
you know Alice is still in the infirmary. So
You're saying we should pick ally, right? Since Alice is going to default to that anyway.
yes.
I know. It's not really fair to betray somebody who isn't voting. His face broke into a warm, happy smile. Not to be sappy, but it was like a ray of sunshine on a cloudy day. I grinned back at her before I knew what I was doing. For a minute, the Nonary game didn't seem so scary. Not a literal
10
minute.
seconds remain until Ambidex Game polling closes.
They didn't even bother to tell us how many points Alice had.
9, 8,
I
7,
I don't know if she has one or not.
5, 4.
We'll, of course, pick ally this time because it's the first choice. But we may very well rewind to a betrayal, and in the betrayal we may very well
Of the Ambidex
end up
game has been completed.
we may very well end up killing Alice.
Results will be displayed in the web.
A significant portion of the timelines do end up with Alice dead.
Thank you for your participation. Ambidex gates now opening.
If Alice actually did have Ice 9 in her blood, then it would have been very easy for her to say, look, I can just get in a cold room somewhere as soon as we find a cold room. Like, you'd think there would have been a freezer or something in the pantry, but there actually wasn't, oddly. Perhaps intentionally. But all she has to do is find a cold place and then cool herself down so that she freezes. And then that would probably stop her heart. And then they could thaw her out and her bracelet would come off. And then that would make everything a lot safer. Also, it would create Alice as a floating judge, as it were. Or just spectator who could be in the room anytime there's a suspicious person in the room. They could have her follow Dio around throughout the rest of the game. Or carry Quark. Luna and I stepped out of the AB room. Alright, let's go look at the results.
Okay.
Yeah, Luna is very much a passive Japanese style
Results from round
character.
2 of the Ambidex game
That
will
you
now
typically
be
don't have a
displayed.
character like that written in a Western story, in particular a Western video game. Almost all the male and female characters in Western video game stories are very outgoing, very adventurous, very ambitious and loud.
Please direct your attention to the results screen.
Yep. And there's no point in guessing, we'll just see. Kay and Clover betrayed. Timoji and Fi betrayed. And then Alice betrayed. And I just died. What? So did Alice open the AB gate and vote betray and then somehow escape? Like, that doesn't make any sense. What confirms who is actually voting? Who could even have done that? Like, Quark is supposed to be in the hospital. Alice is supposed to be in the hospital. Timoji maybe could have taken her key card from Alice and voted betray. Why would Timoji vote betray, though? And kill me? That seems crazy. This is like the worst outcome possible. Like, everybody except for me betrayed. Yeah. They never explained whether the bracelets were getting scanned when you press the button or what. I want to hear this explanation, certainly. Because this is crazy.
Please check your bracelet to see your updated bracelet points.
And see, at that point, you should get the dangerous music and a shocked sound effect. What? It was impossible. I blinked, rubbed my eyes, and looked again. No, that's not possible. How can Alice vote be betray? It was a question I would never know the answer to. There was a sharp, quick pain in my wrist, barely even noticeable. I couldn't feel anything flowing into my veins, but I knew it was there. First would be the anesthetic soap roll. I blinked. My vision started to blur. When I tried to think, it felt like my mind had been stuffed with cotton. Now, what's funny here is we do know that the tuberculin should have been found in the treatment facility. So whoever was in the treatment facility should have found that. Maybe they didn't know what to do with it. Maybe they did. Maybe Alice intentionally betrayed you to let you break the rules to then inject you with the tuberculin, which seems like that's kind of ridiculous to go that route, but okay. My legs began to wobble, then gave out entirely as I crumbled to the floor. If we look at the flow here, yeah, this is obviously going to be a dead end.
Sigma! Sigma! Hang on! Oh no!
Like, the only thing that makes any sense is that Alice woke up, she was still under the effects of Radical 6, which made her crazy, and then she ran and voted betray.
Sigma!
Sigma!
No. Why?
My eyes felt like they were made of lead, but I forced them open. Everything was growing blurry, but I noticed the door of the second AB room was open. No one had gone into that room. I'd watched them all. That door was closed, yeah. So somebody went in there earlier. Who? Are there literally two Alices? And yet, there she stood, in an apparition that couldn't possibly be real. Ice. The world was gradually going black and my mouth refused to form words, but my head echoed with questions. How? Why? What was she doing there? Had she run in at the last moment after Luna and I entered the room? But even if she had, why choose betray? Then the darkness closed over my mind as well. My questions were gone forever. Game over. With just a echoey sound effect. Okay, so another save file, another bad end. And we will go for a longer path now. Rewind to this point. I have to remind myself I still haven't gotten the gold file way further back on this branch. There is a possibility that there might be some achievement I didn't get between either the previous game and this game that once I've played both of them I might go back and get all the achievements. Certainly I feel like in this case I've earned them since I've put in so much time.
It's probably a little... You know, Alice, so... Yes.
So having seen that timeline, wouldn't it be crazy now when I betray to find that nobody else betrayed? Almost as if my choice is the only choice that matters and everybody else in the game is just screwing with me and their choices are getting entered by default, you know, or almost random. You would think the other players would complain or say something if their votes were not turning out the way they voted. Instead, they are confirming they voted that way.
Round 2 of the Ambidex game has been completed. Results will be displayed in the warehouse.
Alice is coming off as fairly paranoid and untrustworthy, untrusting
Ambidex gates now opening.
in this timeline, in the previous timeline at least. Luna and I stepped out of the AB room. Why?
What happened to... It's not fair to betray someone who isn't voting. I thought...
I'm just gonna say there's nothing I could think of to say, even I didn't really understand why I'd picked betray instead. It had almost felt unconscious, like some other part of my mind was making that decision. Perhaps I'd been possessed by some evil spirit that had moved my finger to betray button against my will. Yeah, you're just gonna yell at me, game, for doing what I know. What is right? Right, well, we should go see the results.
We already know what they are. It's just simple math.
The look in her eyes was more painful than any punch I'd ever taken. I turned away and almost ran towards the projector. Anything to get away from those eyes.
Results from round 2 of the Ambidex game will now be displayed. Please direct your attention to the results screen.
And see, they don't show Alice's face in that one. Betray, betray, still. Betray, betray, still. Betray. And then long pause, betray. Which literally changes nothing. Which I think is the outcome you pretty much have to have in one round.
Points have been assigned or subtracted accordingly.
Assigned or subtracted is a mistranslation, unless that's supposed to be a hint, really.
Please check your bracelet to see your updated bracelet points.
And so everybody's at the exact same, but now we have different colors and different pairs. What? It wasn't possible. I blinked, rubbed my eyes. I looked again. No. How can Alice's vote be betray? That's not possible. And we can now see her. Alice. She was standing inside the second room from the left. The room that should have been empty. Why? My mind was still reeling. Where had she come from? As I was trying to form a sentence, she began to move toward us. From around me I heard a chorus of muted gasps. It seems like we were all united in surprise and confusion. Alice drew to a stop in front of me and glanced up at the display.
Thought you'd get an easy couple points, huh?
Yeah, it seems like it's the same Alice that she just ran and voted.
Not so easy when you have to look your victim in the eye, is it? Coward.
Me, a coward? You got some balls saying that to me after you picked Betray. Why are you even here?
You gave me the antivirus, didn't you? Tenmyoji told me. Thank you. I mean that from the bottom of my heart, honestly.
But you should still be under the effects of the anesthetic.
Yes, well, I still am. A bit.
So there is something about her body that seems to wear off anesthetic fairly quickly, which then makes it questionable if Soparil that I guess she was injected with. We never really saw her injected with Soparil. Like, would that have really worked to kidnap her at this
I
point?
have a throbbing headache, and I can barely stand. It's horrible. I'm more resistant to anesthetics than most people, a result of my training. I have a feeling Zero Senior knew that. They gave me way more than the standard dose of that gas when they kidnapped me.
Yeah, see, they have to immediately explain how they worked around
In
that.
any event, a few minutes ago I woke up in the infirmary. Tenmyoji explained what was going on, and I got here as fast as I could.
So you showed up right after we'd gone into the AB room.
Yes, right in the nick of time, too. About 10 seconds before the deadline, as I recall.
You did that just so you could betray us?
Right. What? Don't I get to do that? I mean, it turned out to be the right thing to do, didn't it? You two chose betray. If I'd stayed back there, I'd have lost 2 points.
So you're saying it was self-defense?
She clearly is not going to either remember or mention that I was at 1.
Yes.
You're full of poop. Self-defense my butt. You chose betray because you wanted out. You had 6 BP. If I'd picked ally, you would have had 9. That's what you were trying to do, right?
So what if I was?
Are you serious? You would have killed me. Look, I only have 1 BP. You were this close to murdering me. Just admit it. You were planning to kill me so you could escape.
Don't be stupid.
Apparently she was.
I knew you'd choose betray. There was...
Tell the
That
truth.
is the truth. Why am I the only one getting the 3rd degree here? Look at those results. 2 other people just tried to kill someone.
Fi and Dio.
Yes. If Dio had chosen ally, Fi would have killed Tenmyoji. And if she'd chosen ally, Dio would have killed her.
Yeah, and they had agreed before that they were both going to vote ally.
I don't want to be rude, but it looks like Clover and Kay tried to trick one another. Not that it seems to have worked. If either one had chosen ally, the other one would have 9 BP right now.
Yeah, nobody's trustworthy. Obviously. Yep. I turned and looked at the results again before I'd only been looking at my own. This really goes to show a problem with a scenario like this. Good thing is that in the real world these kinds of scenarios are rarely this simplistic or recognizable, but people are definitely getting tied up in a very basic simplistic math game and not realizing or thinking of the bigger implications. You murder anybody to get out of this facility, and that haunts you for the rest of your life. It very well ends up putting you in jail and ruins the rest of your life one way or another. And the goal clearly should be a goal of your own creation to escape not on Zero Seniors or Zero Juniors terms, but escape on your own terms with your own morals intact. And morals have just been thrown out the window for all the players. Of course, that would make for a pretty boring video game. And realize that there were there was only one word across all the roster: betray. Whatever trust we'd managed to build had fallen apart. Everyone was suspicious of everyone else. Had it been the bombs? Or had it been something else? I guess it very well might have been the bombs. So it's funny that the dead body doesn't cause people to distrust people anywhere as much as the bombs did. But I guess the bombs are a direct threat to people's lives right now, whereas the dead body doesn't directly mean that somebody else is going to be murdered. Whatever the reason, if it kept up, we'd never manage to escape. We'd be trapped in a cycle of 0-point rounds for the rest of our lives. Something had to be done. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath. Alright guys, pay attention. Probably already all figured this out, but we can't keep going like this. If we don't start being a little bit more trusting, we're never going to get out of here. We need to work together. Might as well have been talking to a wall.
My apologies, Sigma, but I need to think on something for a bit. I would appreciate being left alone.
Okay.
I'll be leaving too. Things are getting a little too intense here for my delicate constitution. Sorry.
Well, in that case, yeah.
At 2-5. So everybody's just splitting up. Without a word, she turned and left the warehouse. And Dio and Kay quickly followed suit.
See? There's your answer. In the end, everyone's just thinking about themselves. So I would appreciate it if you could not treat me like I'm the only villain here.
Okay, you're not the only villain here.
Come on, Clover. Let's go.
Hold on! I'm coming! Are you feeling okay? I was really worried, you know?
Watch them walk away, Clovely practically jumping with delight to have Alice back. Before long, they reached the yellow door and disappeared beyond it.
Everyone's gone.
Yep. You aren't going to leave too. Are you sure? I chose betray.
But I still believe in you, Sigma.
This would be funny if Luna killed you.
I think your hand must have just slipped or something, right?
My chest hurt, and when I blinked, I felt something hot and wet prick the corners of my eyes. Luna, I bit my lip. Before I could think of anything to say, the metallic rumble of the door closing echoed throughout the warehouse. Of the doors closing.
The Ambidex gates have closed. Round 3 of the star keys.
Do we need to hear any of this?
The Ambidex.
As many times as we want,
Yes,
huh?
as long as we have the star keys. That means we can keep playing the AB game over and over too. Sigma? Could you show me your bracelet? Do you remember what Zero Jr. said?
Having the flashback to see the pairs. Yeah, remember? Let's see here. I'm a cyan pair. What about you?
I'm a magenta pair.
So, pretty much they're not going to be paired up. Wonder what the others are.
Anything, I suppose. We won't know until we have a look.
We've got about 80 minutes until the next set of chromatic doors open. So, what should we do now?
Everyone else has gone off on their own.
Yeah. Physically and emotionally. Really don't like how this is going. It won't matter how many times we repeat the AB games if nobody trusts anybody else. We'll never be able to get out of here.
Maybe it would help if we all had a common goal. Something to unite our hearts and minds.
Yeah, but what? We've already got something like that. Are we potentially going to run into another locked path here? I wouldn't be surprised if that is exactly the case. That there's like a lock path here, and once you get past this lock path, you get into an escape, and then maybe a novel, and then a end, maybe an escape room, a chromatic door. We all want to get out of here. That seems to be a pretty clear goal to me, but everybody chose betray, including me.
Well, what if we have an
An enemy.
Yes, a common foe. Like the person who set the bombs, for instance.
After coming back from the lab, I told her about the bomb, which, while she gave Alice and Quark the Axelveer. Yeah, that might work. If we could figure out which one of us planted the bombs, then everyone else would work together against them. But how do we figure out who it is?
Clues?
Clues, huh? That's right. The memory card. I pulled it out of my pocket and held it toward her.
What's this?
I told you, a memory card is under the bomb we found in the lab. I think whoever set the bomb dropped it. Yeah. I don't know what's on it, though. We could find any kind of memory card reader. We couldn't find any kind of memory card reader.
I guess we can't really use it then. Oh,
So Luna's gonna know, or that you can use it in the infirmary, I guess.
wait a second. You know what? I think I might have seen something.
Oh.
Yes, I remember. The infirmary. I saw it when I was searching the infirmary with Dio and Quark.
It seems like we're coming back to the
There was a
infirmary
memory card
more
just like
often
that one.
than some of the other places,
Yes,
where
I think we can see what's on it.
it might have been more useful to perhaps have the monitor puzzle in the lounge or the crew quarters. That way we balance out the different locations more often. Luna and I exploded into infirmary, nearly running into Alice, Clover, and Tomoji. Quark was there as well, of course. He was just, as we left him, asleep on the bed.
What are you doing here?
I opened my mouth to retort, then thought better of it. I really wanted people to start trusting each other. Well, real change starts at home. As quickly as I could, I explained the second bomb and the memory card, and how we'd come to the infirmary in hopes that we could discover the contents of the latter.
Okay.
Then stick it in already.
Go ahead.
Right. Just as Luna had said, there was a small slot under the screen, exactly the right size of the memory card. Within moments, the screen was filled with what appeared to be random letters. What is this? Okay. If we were to bring up the code that we know because of another timeline, that's LXAQN5 or NS 6DQ. Is there any numbers here? Could it be a GDQ? Probably. So is there LXAQ next to each other? And would that even mean anything at all? Like, if you were to remove all the LX's, Q's, and G's, let's see. So that would then be, if we were just to remove everything, why have Q twice then? It would be something like CUJ at the very beginning, then H, and then M, and yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
6 rows, 22 letters each.
Yeah, that's a lot of a lot of letters. Just scanning over it, like, I see the number 1 a few times. Yeah, in fact, I'm seeing that each row is actually the same letters each time. So it's an A row, a B row, then an A row and a B row, and then another A row and another B row. And from the looks of it, there's no difference. So 3 groups of the same 2 rows. That eliminates a lot. And then the number 1 is completely in the middle of the A row. And that coincides with SVZ. And I don't feel like you're going to get a number 2 or number 3. I don't think you're going to get a 0. Yeah, with the Z, you can't get to 0. Unless the letters are supposed to be read vertically. If I read them vertically, it doesn't seem like there's anything to get from this. And this, frankly, would just be too complicated a puzzle if all I was supposed to do is look at it and realize a pattern. More than the patterns I have realized.
It looks like the odd rows use one set of letters, and the even rows use another set.
So it's a simple letter replacement script, I suppose. Which, if we brought back that L on the top row, is there an L on the top row? No. So it would have to be J and then XAQ could be N, but then there's no A. So that doesn't really work either.
In other words, the first 2 rows just repeat. Yeah.
Is this some kind of code or something?
Doesn't look random to me. Think there might be a pattern. I just don't know what it is.
Was there anything else on there?
Are the people that there's way more than 9 letters here, so if there's 22 letters, that's also more than the 9 people if it was their initials also.
No, it doesn't look like it.
So all we get is this gibberish. Hey Alice, you haven't said anything for a while. What's
Does
up?
any of this look familiar to you, Clover?
What do you mean?
Have you seen something like this before?
I guess Alice is probably asking Clover if she psychically is getting the answer from her brother.
Maybe during your training?
Training.
This is...
So you do recognize it.
All right, knock it off, you 2. How about you share it with the rest of the class?
Yes, please. Outside and stretch your neck from side to side.
I believe this is an encoded message from a terrorist organization.
Okay. It's gonna be 1 sentence
They
long.
call themselves the Myrmidons.
We finally get to hear that word spoken out loud. Myrmidons. For some reason I felt like I'd heard that name before.
What are the Myrmidons?
Put simply, they're a bunch of thugs who are trying to destroy or dismantle most of human civilization.
So this thing we're looking at, you think it's theirs?
The line under it is the real question mark there.
Well, they have a number of different codes, but I do think this is one of them.
Then the bomb? It was set by one of the Myrmidons, wasn't it?
Yes. Well, I can't say for sure, of course, but it seems likely.
Yeah, and we already know that because we've seen that timeline. Damn, I've got a ton of questions for you, but let me start with this one. What the heck does this thing say?
I don't know.
What?
How am I supposed to decode it? I don't have the key. Without a key, it would take literally hundreds of years to decode.
What about you, Clara?
Well, if Alice doesn't know how, I sure don't.
See.
Not much we can do then. We can come back to the code stuff later. I've got another question. Alice Clover, who the hell are you? What do you know about this code?
That's...
You told me your job was to eliminate enemies of the state or something like that. Just what the hell kind of job is that? I think it's time for you to tell us what you do. Is this how we get to Alice end? I hope.
Sorry, but I can't.
Yeah, it's going to be questionable which path actually ends up with us getting a big wall of text that explains Alice's ending.
Because you might be one of them. You might be the person who set the bomb.
Well, even if I was the person that set the bomb, her explaining to the rest of the people around me doesn't really put her in a bad position, unless I'm just trying to... If I was the Mirror Madonna, which I'm not, or at least I think I'm not, me having her expose what she knows doesn't really reveal much. It's idiotic. Of course I'm not.
And where's your proof? For all I know, you're my enemy. I can't tell you anything.
Yeah, nobody trusts anybody. I'm not your enemy. I'm your ally. I'm your friend. I just want all of us to get out of here. Just please tell us. Please. We need to find out who did this so we can all escape. But we have too little information. We need your help. Fine. If you won't tell us about yourself, then just tell us about the Myrmidons. What else do you know about them? She's not even going to tell you that much.
Sorry.
Before I could blink, she leapt up and ran out of the room. Hey, wait, Alice. I took her off after her. And I guess at any point we could find somebody dead.
How long are you going to keep following me?
Interesting, we're going to have a conversation in the botanical garden for seemingly not any good reason. Until you tell me what you know.
Why don't you just ask Clover?
Clover?
You already know she works with me.
Well,
Then
yeah.
Why don't you...
I wanted to hear it from you.
Why?
That's a good question. Remember the crew quarters? Or this garden? We got paired up for 2 separate rounds. That means I've spent more time with you than anybody else here. Maybe that's it. I guess I'm just curious about you.
What are you talking about?
She spun around to hide it, but I caught a blush of red on her cheeks. We walked down the path to where it ended next to the pond. I didn't replant any of those plants. I stayed silent. Alice sat down on the bench. We gazed at the smooth surface of the pond for several long minutes before she began to speak.
You don't hate me?
See, this is another one of those earlier, it seems, rendered images where it's less polygonal. Although, in this instance, you could potentially make the argument that this was a later rendered image, and that's why it's less polygonal. And her head seems to be slightly better scaled and sized this time. Although, her face still looks very different in this image than the standard 3D models we've been seeing. It's a, once again, flat, stationary image with no motion. Which this is, once again, the problem with having 3D images and then having limited budgets to animate movement. What? Why?
I tried to kill you.
You mean in the AB game?
Yes. I was so scared. Who wouldn't be? Kidnapped and locked up, forced to play some sort of bizarre game, and then we found that bomb. I know I probably sounded calm, but as soon as we found that thing, all I wanted to do was run away from it as fast as I could. Things just went downhill from there.
I want to applaud at least there's voice acting so far in this. What do you mean?
I remember hearing that Quark had collapsed and running to the infirmary with everyone else. When I got there, I realized I couldn't understand what anyone was saying. And everything looked... I don't know how to describe it. It was like watching a video on fast forward, only it was real. Then I started to feel like... It's hard to explain. I guess you could say I didn't feel like I was myself, and it only got worse.
That was probably the Radical 6.
Yes, I think so.
And once again, this feels like music we may never have heard before.
I don't remember much after that.
And since I have to press A to move the story forward,
When I woke up in
the music could easily run out of time before I've done all the text.
So all I could think about was getting out of this place as fast as I could.
Let's see, here we have another stationary image in... Once again, I have to say I would have really appreciated 2D drawings instead. And honestly, that would be a very weird way to remaster a visual novel, but I think since you know that the third game also goes back to 2D images, it would only make sense for them to potentially redraw all the 2D images. That would cost more than you would probably imagine for a game that probably wouldn't recoup its cost if you did something like that. There is a whole concept here of a remake that if you handed this storyline to a more Western company that wasn't going to make a visual novel out of it, you could tell the exact same story and cut a lot of the fluff out and potentially merge the events of all three games into one.
It never even crossed my mind that it could kill you.
Yep, that's what I was figuring. She didn't even think about it.
Help me. Even if it had, I don't think I would have cared. See? I'm horrible. You hate me, don't you? Just do it.
What to do?
Kill
What?
me. Get it over with.
What the hell, Alice? I'm not gonna kill you. I don't even hate
You're
you.
lying. I could have killed you. I would have killed you.
Come on, calm down. No one's killing anyone. I wonder if the Radical 6 is still affecting her. See, that's part of the problem of introducing a virus that makes people suicidal, is that you can't trust any of their actions after you know they've been infected with it, which arguably makes the argument that everybody in this Nonary game was infected with Radical 6, and thus was suicidal and under the influence of Radical 6. Thus, every single betray and mistake and bad action is to some level excusable and explainable away. Small tear rolled down Alice's cheek, then another and another, leaving shining lines across her face. When I reached out, I saw her tense just slightly. I slowly brushed my thumb across her cheek and off. I brushed my thumb across her cheek and off, taking her tears with it.
Why
That's a
are you doing
weird
this?
translation.
You know, you kind of remind me of my father.
We never got a lot of that backstory about the father being murdered, and I felt like that was a lie, but I guess not. That's who you were after, right? The people who killed your dad? Did they have anything to do with the Myrmidians?
Will you promise not to tell Clover that I cried?
Ah, come on.
Keep your mouth shut. I'll tell you what you want to know.
This is weird that that's the thing that gets her to talk, is she just wants to be the tough, bigger sister to Clover.
About myself. And about the Myrmidons. Deal?
Sure. My lips are sealed. What, crying? I don't remember any crying.
Good. All right then.
Alice took a deep breath and began. So now we're going to get the big wall of text. That won't be voice acted. My father is Egyptian, but my mother is French. Which, assuming this story is true, does potentially limit the age of Alice, because Egypt and France would have had to at least exist. But you could also translate it. It would be easy for her mother to be from the region of France that was France before France was France. And I don't know enough about France's history, frankly, to say what country would have been there before. They met while my mom was in Egypt on vacation and married shortly thereafter. When I was 3, we all moved to the United States. Alright, well, that is a limitation now. So it basically means Alice is not the Egyptian princess, and that all of that was just red herring stuff. My father was a scientist and his field was cloning. He was recruited by an American lab, which is why we moved. Cloning apparently exists in this universe, and it did quite a while ago, if she was 3 at the time. Although, in fairness, in the real world, cloning probably exists. Even with humans, I wouldn't be surprised if there are several human clones wandering around secretly as science experiments, because the scientists didn't even announce that they'd cloned a sheep until basically 3 years after they had cloned it, and I think close towards the end of the life of Dolly the sheep's. Anyways, both my parents had used English around me from the time I was born, so I didn't have any problems adapting to life in the United States. But my 9th birthday, we'd been there for 6 years. Thanks for the math. That was when it happened. In the middle of the day, my mother showed up at school. Her eyes were red and puffy. She didn't say anything, but to me on the drive home. So what are they depicting here? Like, what looks like just a fat policeman on the right, and either we're being shown the mother with the curly black hair and headband, and it looks like she's wearing an apron. And there is definitely an odd angle here that I guess is supposed to be from the perspective of a 6-year-old. But also it is sort of a kind of anime lewd angle too, in which you're showing the butt of the mother. I assume this is the mother. If it is Alice, then Alice's hair has gone from curly to flat and straight, and Egyptian tends to imply flat and straight hair. When we arrived, there were several policemen there to meet us. My father had always been a very punctual man, and when dinner time came and went with no sign of him, I began to realize something terrible had happened. It wasn't until several years later that I finally learned the truth. My father's lab had been attacked by terrorists, and he had been kidnapped. Okay, so we now know that Alice's father was kidnapped by the Free the Soul movement, which is getting retconned into the history of the 999 universe, and they made Alice's father continue his cloning research to clone the brother's brother left to create Dio and the Miradons. For the rest of my childhood, my mother raised me by herself. I didn't realize it then, but it must have been incredibly difficult for her as a single mother alone in a country where any relatives were a transatlantic flight away. She did her best to not let me see it, but every so often, when she thought I was alone, the mask would fall away, and in every line of her face I could see exhaustion and loneliness. As much as I miss my father, it was those moments that made me wish more than anything that he had never been taken. Here we get this picture again that we'd seen in the Secrets of Alice being shown as just a worker, an office lady as it were. Or maybe this is even like a college outfit. Maybe it's supposed to indicate that. Fortunately, I was an excellent student, did especially well in math. I earned a full ride scholarship straight out of high school and spent the next several years studying. Although, if she's in America, there aren't really college outfits for most colleges, even private ones. Maybe a few do have private uniforms. After graduating, I took a job with the Department of Defense, hoping that they might have the resources to help me look for my father. So why is she dressed up like an Egyptian half the time? I was immediately assigned to the Special Office of Internal Security. That's not good security. You take a job with the Department of Defense and they immediately assign you to a top secret classified organization that's not even supposed to officially exist. like talk about opening yourself up to leaking information. I would imagine there are people that have worked for 10, 15, 20 years at the FBI or CIA and still haven't been assigned to a top secret group or assignment. Their purpose is to investigate and sometimes deal with terrorist organizations and other serious threats to the state. I could tell my mother wasn't happy about my decision, and she chose to remain silent about it. Well, why are you telling your mother about your secret agent job? Eventually I learned that the terrorist organization that had taken my father was none other than the Myrmidons, although at the time that name didn't mean anything to me. They were suspected of human cloning. Specifically, it was thought they had been using cloning techniques to copy their most useful members and expand their ranks. The Myrmidons apparently believed that they could use cloning to create a new race of humans. Well, that seems like a different plan than what I thought they were doing. Slightly. Now at last I knew the reasons why for my father's abduction. The commander of the Myrmidons is a man named Left. Well, I thought Left was dead. We know his name and his gender, but not his appearance or his age. All the watches are on the left hand. All the bracelets are on the left hand, but I don't think that means much. It may very well have been in the previous game all the watches were on the right hands. I think they were, actually. The Myrmidons are closely associated with the cult known as Free the Soul. We believe the Free the Soul provides their funding, but trying to pin any kind of misdeeds on the cult leader, a man named Brother, is like trying to nail jello to a wall. Brother's supposed to be fairly advanced in years, and rumor says he's so old that he can't even get out of bed. Unfortunately, his mind seems to be as sharp as ever. So it'd be funny if it turned out that Tim Miyoji is actually Brother. At that point, I hit a wall. I knew the Myrmidons had been behind my father's kidnapping, but that was all I could learn about them. Then one day I got a tip that some of them were hiding in a building in the Nevada desert, which I think we are in two very different buildings in the Nevada desert, which at a certain point makes you wonder just how many secret buildings are in the Nevada desert, unless this building turns out to be the same as the building in the previous game. That would be hard to believe. I headed out immediately. On the way there, my car hit some engine trouble and stalled out. So, her father's Egyptian, thus she wears ancient Egyptian clothing that really probably isn't in line with what other Egyptians wear. And she wears revealing clothing on a mission. Unless she thought this was going to be the disguise to use, which seems kind of silly. So once again, you get to this point in what was shown in just kind of a joke scene at the end of the previous game, and you have to decide, is she lying now, or was the game lying to you before? And they're trying to make you think the game was lying to you before, but then you see an outfit like this and it just does not make any sense. I was trying to decide what to do when the SUV appeared out of nowhere. I'll give you one guess who was behind the steering wheel. Clover. That was the first time we met. There were 4 other people in the car with her, and when I asked what they were doing, I got what was just about the last answer I'd expected. They told me they'd been locked up inside of the very building I'd been on my way to investigate, and that they were currently in pursuit of the people who had kidnapped them in the first place. My priorities shifted very quickly. After a short discussion, I convinced them to allow me to come along. My hope was to find people they were chasing, who I was certain were Myrmidons. So I'm not 100% sure who they were chasing, though. Were they chasing Santa and Junpei, or were they chasing H and maybe somebody else? I don't even know who else. They say people and not just one person. And that's the weird part about it. In the end, however, we were unable to track them down. In fact, I still don't know where they might have gone. Eventually, I took Clover and her companions to the SOIS headquarters. We decided that involving the police would only complicate things. So, after some questioning, it was determined that the people who had instigated this particular event were not connected to the Myrmidons. We did, however, discover the mysterious disappearance and subsequent reappearance of several children 9 years prior was connected to Free the Soul. There was also a 6th person in the SOUV, although they weren't riding in it per se. A middle-aged man, who I'll just call H for now, had been bound and placed in the trunk. See, so H was in the trunk, they had caught him, so they were chasing after Santa in June, apparently. According to the other 4, he'd been behind the disappearance of the children 9 years ago. We also learned that his pharmaceutical company, a major player in the world stage, was effectively controlled by Free the Soul. More specifically, I suppose H was a member of Free the Soul and very committed to their cause. So why had he kidnapped all those children? Apparently, it had been part of an experiment designed to test the abilities of certain people to access what's called the morphogenetic field. I don't imagine you've ever heard of it before, so I'll try to give you a quick rundown. And big wall of text. A lot of this we've already seen. Simply put, these people can access the sort of field, blah, 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 blah. Pause now if you want to read this. To be honest, it might be simpler just to call it telepathy. The SOS had heard of this particular ability before, and we actually had used it in a number of investigations, so I wasn't surprised to learn of its existence. I was shocked, however, to learn that these experiments had been carried out by a member of Free the Soul. If that was the case, then Brother might have known about it. The thought of him discovering a way to control and harness the power was terrifying. Now we're jumping back to images that we've already seen. They're getting repetitive. Wasn't too long after the incident in Nevada that another tip about the Myrmidons crossed my desk. This time it claimed that the Myrmidons intended to launch a large-scale biological terrorist attack. My bosses decided that we needed more agents to deal with the threat of that magnitude, and Clover was recruited. Because she'd been a test subject in H's experiment, we knew she had the ability to access the morphogenetic field, and we wanted to put that ability to use. After several months of training, she was sent on her first mission. She would be tasked with infiltration and investigation of a Myrmidon cloning lab. I was assigned to be her commanding officer. I hoped that our investigation might also give me a lead on my father's whereabouts, which, honestly, her father would be fairly old at this point. So even if she did find somebody that looked like her father, it'd almost certainly be a clone, because if her father was kidnapped when she was 6, and we assume she's more than 22 now, let's just, for easy math, say more than 24. 18 years difference? Yeah, that could put him in his 60s or 70s. Assuming he wasn't particularly young when he gave birth, or when his wife gave birth to Alice. At last, I had a chance to find out what had happened to him. I wouldn't let the chance pass me by. Perhaps that's what kept me from noticing the truth. The whole operation was a trap, and we've seen this image before. The lab was fake and Clover was captured almost immediately. I got there as fast as I could, but when I arrived, the building was only an empty shell. All of the conspirators who had pretended to be researchers and the like had already fled. I searched frantically for Clover until at last, in the basement room, I found her. She had been tied up to a chair, but on the floor next to her was another body. This is new. It was my father. He looked as if he had just been dumped there, and when I got to him, his body was already cold. He was covered in dark, ugly bruises. It wasn't until later that I learned he had died from ruptured organs and internal bleeding. They had beaten him to death. As soon as Clover had been captured, the Myrmidon in a mask had come, a Miradon in a mask had come to visit her. He said that unless she wanted to end up like my father, she would leave them alone until her masters at the SOIS to do likewise. In retrospect, they must have known who I was or who my father was. That's why they killed him. Perhaps they thought they were sending a message to me that once he was gone, I'd lose my reason for chasing them. Yeah, that's not going to work. They were very, very wrong. I took Clover with me and left. I tried to console myself with the fact that I had at least been able to save her. Sometime later, I received a call from the coroner. He told me there was something I needed to see. There in the morgue was my father, cold and pale, on a steel table. Are they going to actually show him? I could barely stand to look at him, but the coroner insisted. On his arm were 2 rows of numbers comprised of 8s and 9s. It took me a moment to recognize my father's handwriting. He'd carved them into his own skin. On his chest was another message, but they were letters, not numbers. Not many, just enough to make a short sentence. I love you, Alice. I broke down crying right there in the morgue. I don't know if a coroner would really tell you, show that to you. They may tell you that. I broke down crying right there in the morgue. They were the first tears I'd shed since the operation had started, and there was no stopping them. There would be no forgiveness. Not for the monsters who put my father through this. They had destroyed my father. I would make them pay, even if I had to die to do it. That night I made a promise to myself. I would avenge my father. Like, this is an interesting story. In a weird way, though, this wall of text story is fairly more interesting than a lot of what the main story is. So, I don't know why you couldn't have found more things to leave on the cutting room floor in favor of something like this. Even if you were going to repeat these revelations across other pathways. Anyways, they didn't even consider it, I would imagine. I imagine they hired the writer and said, they told the writer, it seems like it's just one writer for the whole game, to write the big reveal wall of text. And don't even think about using any of those revelations anywhere else. Which tells a very rough story where it's just information loaded and information overload. Whereas a better story would slowly trickle out revelations that are interesting and intriguing. Things that would keep your attention and keep you reading in a visual novel or book. That's definitely not the experience we're having right now. It didn't take long to figure out the numbers he had written were latitude and longitude. If it was just 8s and 9s, that's very limited. They pointed to a chemical factory that had been disguised in an abandoned building. Further investigation revealed that it was the motherlode we'd been looking for, the headquarters of the Miradons. I think my father must have known how things would turn out. Knowing he was going to die, he had written the directions to our enemy's fortress on his own body. He sacrificed too much for me to waste this opportunity with recklessness. This time our operation would succeed. This time I wouldn't let my excitement put Clover and any of my other agents in danger. So we took our time, we gathered information, we did research, we planned. Finally we were ready. December 25th, 2028 was going to be the day we finally set foot inside the Miradon stronghold. But then, on the 22nd, only 3 days before the operation was scheduled to begin, a man in a gas mask appeared. I'd like to see how much gas they actually used on her. They don't. So you inhaled the gas, passed out, and woke up in the AB room.
Yes. Well, there it is.
Now we're back to
Everything that's happened
voicing.
to Myrmidons and me.
And this is another case where, since this is a stationary image, the lips are not moving at all for the Japanese or the English language. The lips aren't moving, I'm sure.
I left a few of the details out, of course, but you get the idea.
Yeah, thanks. She gave me a sad sort of smile and stood up. We still have yet to figure out the lion eating the sun
We
concept.
should go back.
there's a star constellation, Leo the lion, that I guess could be eating the sun. I don't know what that really would mean or reveal. Not yet. The story explained a lot, but there's still one big question.
Which is?
Who here is the Miradon? One of us planted the bombs, and based off the code we found, it's pretty clear that the person is a Miradon, right?
Yes.
And I agree that we need to figure out who
What
they
do you
are.
propose we do?
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you about. Do you have any clues?
Yes? Well, if I could decrypt that code, it might tell us something, but...
How can we do
I
that?
told you. We need a key.
And see, this might very well be a case where we've already gotten past lock number 4, and this would be lock number 3. So there may very well be lock number 5, or this might be labeled lock number 6 or 7 or 8. But I think I already have that.
Without that, it's pointless.
What's a
A
key?
key is a key. It allows you to sort of unlock a code. Miradons usually use this huge string of numbers as a key.
Numbers. Wait. A long string of numbers? Could that be... So now we flash back into that timeline. We saw these, certainly, but we didn't memorize it. 78153. So thank goodness you didn't have to write that down. Space 61098. Why am I reading this out loud? Pause now if you want to read the numbers.
What the hell?
I was almost as surprised as she was. The numbers had just kind of appeared in my mind. I was saying them before I knew what I was doing. Alice looked at me incredulously and I stared back.
Where did... Wait. Can you say that again?
Bunch of numbers.
That's 198,449,351 to the third power.
Oh, A, how can you do that kind of math? And B, why are you doing that kind of math?
That
What?
number you just told me. Prime factor decomposition on that number gets you 198,449,351 to the third power.
You're talking about reducing an integer to a series of prime numbers that you must multiply together to get it, right? Like if you had 30, you'd get 2 times 3 times 5,
Exactly.
right?
You probably learned that in junior high, right?
So you're saying that that number is a prime. That's a very large prime there, if that really is a prime. And I wouldn't be surprised if it actually isn't. 9-digit prime number. See, and at that point, it feels like they're just directly stealing movies from the sci-fi movie series Cube, where I feel like the first Cube movie was decent, but then the second Cube movie and the third Cube movie aren't even good enough to really justify watching unless you really enjoyed the first Cube movie. There is a video game that's basically ripping off that concept directly from the Cube movies, and they're working on it. It's kind of early access at the moment, and one of the more multiplayer games where your fun is going to be with the friends you're playing with. And if you multiply by itself by 3 times, you get that number.
Yes.
Don't tell me you just did all of that in your head.
I did do all of that in my head. Simple mental arithmetic.
I hardly would call that simple. What? No way. That's impossible.
I'm better at math than most people.
I'm wondering who turned on the waterfall. Does it just reset when people leave the room? That's not better at math.
It's you. You just recited a huge string of numbers. That seems pretty astounding, too.
Well, it might be that each of the people in this game are potentially like geniuses and they don't even realize it. They have like astonishing abilities.
Where did you find that number anyway?
I didn't know what to say. What would I tell her? That just came to me?
Can't tell me, huh? Fine. I'm pretty sure that's the key to the code, though. I know the Myrmidons use prime factors for their keys, and there aren't a lot of 25-digit numbers that turn out to be the third power of a prime number. I think there's a very good chance that number you memorized was specifically created by someone.
Could you explain that with small words?
Look at the prime factors of your number. 198,449,351 to the third power. I think that's our hint for cracking the code.
See, no character is like numbered. Everybody started with 6 BP. So, if this number was supposed to be a hint of like the order you were supposed to go into as far as the chromatic doors, that doesn't really make sense. If it's the order of people that are supposed to be paired up, that doesn't really make sense.
You still don't get it? Try to remember the code we saw in the infirmary. What did it say on the monitor?
I think the first row was... Oh man, he does just remember everything he sees. He's got like perfect recall.
And the second row?
I think.
Wow, you've got a pretty impressive memory. We could really use someone like you back at the...
We'll keep going. How do we decode that?
use 198,449,351 to point you to the right letters.
And how would we do that?
Well, the first number is 1, so take the first letter.
Okay, C, and then jump to 9. Hopefully it's just going to translate all this
The
for me.
next number is 9, so go 9 letters over from the first one. Then 8.
Does that include the one you're standing on, or does it not? Because jumping 9 letters over would be CO, but which would make more sense than CN.
Just keep going until you get something. Make sense?
If it potentially is just going to loop around, then there was no reason to repeat the lines more than instead of just having the 2 lines in the first place, because then when you hit the end, people would have just known to go back to the beginning. Ran over what she'd said in my head. Prime number Alice had given me was this. So what we get if we pick the letters like she'd explained? The first letter would be C from the top left. And then move 9 to the right gets O. And then right, eventually we get a word. And that word was... Decode the password using this. You have 6 chances to succeed. Fail and the game is over. Let's... Are you gonna really do this to me? Game. Save. Here. Remember the key is 198-449-351. 198-449-31. Oh, shoot. It's just gonna... Do we have anything here? Let's see. They gave me like 3 options to see it, but there's no back here. Retry doesn't do anything. So we know it's C-O, and then we would need a 7 character word after that point. And yeah, they just kind of screwed me there. Like, can we possibly load back in? We're not even actually entering a code into any kind of device. Alright, so I'm just gonna open up the Google and type in Virtue's last reward. Code Alice. See for Alice's end. See. And then scroll down here. More and more. See. It goes. You have 6 attempts after this. After a 6th attempt failed, you get an off-flow game over. Off-flow meaning not on the flow. Game over branch. Or else walks away saying she can't deal with your incompetence. There's no explanation giving as to why this ends the entire game. Fortunately, you shouldn't need 6 attempts as the puzzle is very easy. The answer is completed. Yeah, it's very easy if I had looked at it and not realized that I wasn't going to be able to see it. Yeah. And this is what this game certainly does to me. Like, having put in 20, probably 25 hours now into such a long-running visual novel game, it's really hard as somebody who's way more used to playing running and gunning high-action Western games to think that you actually have to pay attention to a game, that you can't just skip 3 scenes. Particularly in this game, it's inconsistent. There are hundreds of screens I bet you can skip in this game, but then there are the occasional scenes where it's important to not skip. And I just did skip, so it brings me back to this. Maybe if I'd failed, it would have brought me back to the screen there and I could have tried it again, but then at that point I probably would have forgotten the number. I did it. Completed. That's it. That's the answer.
Are you sure?
Yeah. I did exactly what you told me to do, and the word I got was completed. Well, it's actually completed, completed, completed. The code and the letters repeat every 2 lines. It just repeats.
Well, I can't remember the code like you can, but if you're certain, I believe you.
I'm definitely certain.
All right, then. I wonder what completed is supposed to mean now.
Seems fairly obvious. Whatever you were sent to do was completed. What? Aside from the obvious, you mean? I'm guessing here it means mission complete. So that's what the transmission was for.
Huh? What are you talking about? What transmitter?
Transmitter. I barely even heard her. Suddenly my mind was full of memories that I hadn't been there a moment before. It was like a wave had washed away the sand, revealing a bed of precious gems underneath. And we're getting flashes of pretty much every path that was important that we've seen, and maybe a few paths we haven't seen yet.
Oh, Holy Father, Holy Brother, Holy Master, my sacred mission is at last complete. With these 2 hands, mankind is saved. I am your well-made flesh.
It'd be funny if it turned out the Mirrodins are actually not terrorists and they are in some way trying to save all of humanity by blowing up this facility. Damn it. Why hadn't I realized it before? I could remember a series of numbers, but not this? At least I remembered it now. Dio was a member of the Myrmidons. Not just any member, he was their leader. That meant he had to be the one who planted the bombs. So, is he left?
Hey, are you listening to me? Then
Yeah.
answer my question. What the hell was that? What's this about a transmitter?
I didn't trust myself to try and explain it to her. More than likely, she'd just think I was insane. Even I could barely make sense of the sudden influx of new information.
Don't tell me you're one of the Myrmidons.
If I was, do you really think I'd reveal myself like this? Oh no, Clover appeared. They didn't bother to animate her running around.
Oh, there you are. I've been looking all over for you.
Really?
All down in the floor B warehouse. Well, all of us but Luna and Quark.
Why?
We've still got 45 minutes until the white doors
I
open.
know that.
Oh, okay. Hey, wait a minute. I thought you, Kay, and Quark didn't know about the white doors.
Yoji told us about them. He said he'd show us where they were, so we all followed him down to the floor B warehouse.
I'm assuming you left Quark with Luna?
Yeah. Anyway, when we showed up, Vi and Kay were already there.
So,
All of a sudden, Vi, Tenmyoji, and Dio all started yelling at each other.
what?
Why? Did something happen?
According to Clover, the last AB game had been the cause of their fight. Even though Timoji had only one BP, Phi had chosen Betray. They started to fight, and since Dio had pressed Betray on behalf of the team, he eventually got dragged in too.
That seems odd. Vi only had one BP too. Choice seems like a perfectly valid defensive move.
Ugh. Just come with me. Kay's trying to calm them down, but there's only one of him.
Okay, come on, Alice, let's go.
Coming.
We've totally, like, forgotten about Kay and trying to get the armor off of him. It's just too many hanging plot threads, regardless of what path you go down. I really wish the story was one longer flow with just a few branches. All four of them were sitting there when we arrived. Like, instead of having a relatively short, wide, thick, fat branch, instead having a really, really skinny, thin branch that on some choices would just jump past conversations, and in that way you could say, alright, you've now seen who is the man behind the mask as far as Kay. That doesn't really matter, so why don't you never go through that timeline ever again and just skip ahead. Alright, and we do now know that that was lock number 5. So, interesting numbering there. Although it could be that the game just numbers these based on the order you find them in. They seem to have calmed down a bit, but the tension in the air was almost visible. I felt like I'd stepped into a room full of flammable gas. Even the smallest spark could turn the whole place into a raging inferno. I don't know how this ends up being Alice's ending, though. Even Kay, usually so calm and collected, was standing ramrod straight with his hands balled into a fist at his side. I looked at Alice, pursed my lips, and then headed over to the angry knot of people occupying most of the room. Of course, we know Dio is the Myrmidon, so we've got to deal with this fight and potentially either beat up or kill Dio. Clover told me what's going on. This whole thing is stupid. You need to knock it off.
Stupid? What about this is stupid? We're talking about my life, you self-righteous dick.
I know, but yelling at each other isn't going to solve your problem. The best thing for us to do right now is to trust each other and get through this. Wouldn't you agree?
Hard to trust someone who tried to kill me.
Same to you. Told you letting Dio vote was a stupid idea. What did you think he was gonna do? You might as well have pressed the button yourself.
I couldn't just leave Quark alone.
That's no excuse.
Hmm.
And where do you get off telling me I shouldn't have picked betray? Did you even think that through? What, I was supposed to pick ally? If I'd done that, I'd be dead right now.
I could say the same thing to you. Damn good thing Dio didn't choose ally.
Please, that's enough from both of you. Sigma's right. This isn't the time to be bickering with each other.
Oh, you don't get to talk. You tried to betray Clover and escape on your own.
Perhaps. But I think that's better than merely killing someone.
Well, I only did it so that she wouldn't kill Tenmyoji.
Arg. Goddamn. Enough already. I roared with fury and my voice echoed and rebounded off the walls of the warehouse. Everyone fell silent. I didn't know how long the silence would last, so I decided to put it all on the table. There was the only way I was going to be able to take control of this situation. Guys, listen to me. We really don't have time for this. I was met with a number of glares, but I soldiered on. See, the thing is, I figured out who planted the bombs.
What? Is this what you were talking about earlier?
Sort of, yeah. I know which one of you it is.
Well, spit it out then.
Please, explain what's going on here.
I don't think I need to. They're going to admit their guilt in just a few minutes.
What?
You're all going to hear it straight from the horse's mouth. This will be interesting. Or I guess I should say Dio's mouth.
What are you on? You think I set those bombs?
Yes, I do.
If you're gonna accuse me, you better have some pretty damn good evidence, pal.
Do I have evidence? I'm not accusing you. I'm just stating a fact.
Yeah? Where the hell did you get that fact?
Fun as it was, I knew taunting alone wasn't not enough to make Dio confess. He just played dumb. Or he was good at it, and I'd get nothing. That meant I was going to have to trick him. Well, you see, I'm actually from Free the Soul.
The Soul? What's that? Some kind of hippie shoe company?
Don't play dumb, Dio, or should I call you Left? Brother ordered me to come here, to keep an eye on you. It was quick, but for just a moment I saw his eyes twitch. I leapt on the moment of weakness like a hungry dog on the steak. Fine. Skepticism is understandable and admirable even, but perhaps this will convince you. I pressed forward, pulling out every fact I could remember. I told Dio about Brother's background and how his younger brother, Left, had been murdered. I mentioned casually that the Myrmidons were all clones of a single person. So, still not convinced? How about this? So, bunch of numbers, do a little prime factor decomposition on that, and you get this to the third power. If I'm not who I say I am, how on earth can I possibly know that?
No, that's not possible.
Finally. So, let's start over, shall we? I was sent here to watch your every move. It seems our wise and noble brother didn't trust you. He suspects betrayal.
You're lying!
I assure you, I'm not. But if you don't believe me, why don't you go outside and call him yourself with your transmitter?
No. No! You have to be lying! Brother trusts me! That's why he chose me for this mission! Why would he make me the leader of the Myrmidons if he...
Huh? Sorry, what was that?
Said, why would he have made me the leader of the Myrmidons if...
So we tricked him. I grinned.
Wait. What the hell? Are you fucking kidding me?
Sorry, Dio. I've never even seen Brother.
What the hell was all that? How did you know all those things?
Don't know. Maybe I was divinely inspired.
Give me that shit!
What's going on?
What are these Myrmidons?
Dio and I stared at one another while Clover and Tinmoya quickly explained to Phi and Kay about the memory card and the number 2 bomb, and about the code we found from a terrorist organization called the Myrmidons. So now what?
So you mean to say someone from the Myrmidons planted the bombs?
And Dio pretty much just admitted to doing it?
Yeah.
Bastards. I'll never forgive you.
I heard a low, furious muttering behind me and turned to see Alice, her lips pulled back into a snarl.
I am going to kill you!
It'll be interesting to see if she can actually succeed at that. Her voice rose to a scream as she charged toward Dio. He ducked out of the way smoothly and pulled something out of from his pocket.
Whoa there.
And here we have another stationary 3D image that that isn't animated, and so he had the activator on him the whole time, and he's just gonna blow up the facility.
I like my women a little feisty. But you're taking it a little too far, sweetheart. Tone it down.
What?
You see this? You know what it is, don't you?
Oh my god. Is that the detonator?
Exactly. I assume you know what happens if I press this button?
Yes. I think I do. I'm guessing it'll set off both of the bombs.
Well, I wouldn't say both.
You mean there's still a number 1 bomb we haven't found?
Correct.
Is there a number 0 bomb?
And there's one more, too.
No. There are 4 bombs?
Exactly. I've planted 4 bombs. They're the ones numbered 1, 2, and 3, but there's also one more. Bomb number 0.
Yep.
Add all that up and you're looking at about 4 tons of explosive power. Those go off and it's all over.
Was he just hiding them under his hat, or where?
That's enough oomph to turn this whole place into a smoking crater.
It really doesn't feel like there's ever going to be a timeline here where Dio is not the bad guy, though. So even in like the perfect ending, I still feel like we're going to end up having to defeat him / kill him.
Aren't you forgetting something?
Which that's kind of how the last game ended too, and that there was a slight disappointment in the fact that there was several people that didn't turn out to get the happy ending you kind of would want in a story like this.
That'd kill you too.
So, I'm ready for that. I've got spares.
Spares? Is that what Sigma was talking about?
Yeah, clones.
I heard Alice whisper something to Clover.
Let's go, Clover. Shmuel on that training wasn't for nothing.
Oh, yeah. Right.
This will be surprising if Clover is actually super acrobatic and physically capable. Before I had a chance to ask them what was going on, they moved.
Die, you bastard! Yeah!
She roared and leapt toward Dio. Clover just followed behind. Alice threw a punch at Dio's face as he dodged. Clover spun out from behind her. So they did some kind of combined attack that they're not animating. Dio grunted and turned to focus on Alice, but Clover darted in and snatched the detonator from his hand.
Clover, get him!
Right. Sigma, catch!
So she throws the detonator to Sigma. Huh? Before I could respond, Clover had thrown the detonator at me. I scrambled to grab it out of the air and held it to my chest. That feels like a great way to accidentally hit the button.
Damn it! Stop! Let me go! Still let go of me, you asshole!
Yelling didn't do any good, and Dio found himself subdued by the skillful teamwork of Alice and Clover. Interesting, they kind of had to have a girl power moment here, because it would have made a lot more sense for Kay to have simply jumped him. Strangely though, once they had a hold of him, he stopped struggling. In a funny way, too, this is once again a stationary, kind of badly animated 3D image of Dio and Clover in a unique position. I was reminded of a gazelle when it's with its neck in the mouth of a lion. Had he surrendered, or did he have some trick up his sleeve? It didn't feel right. I didn't have to wait long for my misgivings to prove true. The detonator in my hand suddenly began to flash. What?
Serves you right.
Does it activate when it's not in the possession of Dio?
What are you laughing at?
You, her, all of you. God, you're stupid.
What? Why?
See that detonator you threw to Sigma? You activated it. If it gets more than a meter away from me, it sets itself off.
Yep.
We figured someone might try to take it away, so we put in a little safeguard. Since you two were kind enough to take it away from me, the bombs have gone from remote control to countdown timer.
Although that doesn't inherently mean we can't dismantle
Go
them.
ahead and destroy the detonator if you want. Won't make any difference now. The bombs are gonna go off no matter what.
How much time?
About 30 minutes.
30 minutes.
Oh no.
My condolences.
What can we do to stop them?
I told you that already. First, we need the device that allows us to input information. Then we plug it into each bomb and enter the codes.
We don't even know what two of the bombs are.
Who the hell are you? How do you know all this?
None of your damn business. Just tell me where the input device is.
Well, that's none of your damn business.
And then they've animated her twisting his arm behind.
Of course. That's the plan.
Please, stop!
Just tell me what I want to know.
So we're having a torture scene here, for lack of a better term.
Okay, I'll tell you. It's in my coat. The right-hand pocket.
Clover, check it out. Right.
She nodded and they started digging through his pockets after a few
It's
minutes.
no use. There's nothing here.
Did you lie to me?
No. I swear, keep looking.
Oh, wait. There is something in here.
What was the point of that sentence? She pulled her hand from her pocket and held it out. It's a pill, like for medicine.
Hey, what is this?
Huh? I can't see it. Bring it over here.
Clover frowned and moved it closer to Dio, holding the pill out toward him. Suddenly he moved, his right hand shaking out to grab the pill from Clover's hand. Before anyone could react, he shoved it into his mouth. It's a suicide pill. I heard a tiny crack as he bit down on it. Almost immediately, he grimaced in pain. Well, I thought he'd broken that hold, so why are we getting the same animation? Man, I've been talking too long. So he suicide pilled himself, which is good because that means the story is actually going to end. I was afraid that the flow might just continue and we somehow were on the perfect ending. And maybe we're even going to get all the way through the perfect ending without doing the other timelines.
Shit!
What? What was that?
It's easy to forget that it was barely an hour or two ago in game time that Alice tried to kill me.
Poison, I guess.
What?
Damn! How could I be so stupid?
His eyes rolled up into his head and the flecks of spittle began to trickle from the corners of his mouth. I grabbed him by the hair and shook. What the hell are you doing? Where's the input device?
Lost it. In my couch. Back home.
Oh, I wonder if it actually is in the couch in the lounge, because he did sit on that. Don't screw with me.
Fine. Don't tell us. How about you give us the deactivation codes instead?
Deactivation. You guys are persistent. Fine. Not gonna do you much good anyway. I'll tell you. You only get one. This is the deactivation code for bomb 3.
Okay. So apparently we only have the deactivation code for one bomb.
Ready? LXQ LHC NMR.
Okay. So, bomb 3 LXQ. Probably I'm gonna end up reusing all this. LHC. L H C. I probably almost certainly am just gonna end up looking up all these answers in MR, but we'll pretend like we're doing this the right way. In MR. So this might be bomb 0. That's a 9-character code. This is a 9-character code. So there are seemingly two more codes that we need to get in different timelines. What about the other 3? Tell us the other 3. You didn't even seem to hear me.
My body will be a part of the foundation of a bright future.
His voice was weak. And see, that's very video gamey if you're gonna take a suicide pill to then go and divulge information. The whole point of taking a suicide pill is that you're not going to divulge information, so why divulge anything at all other than the video game needs to give you something so you feel like you did something right, because this obviously is a path you have to go through.
In everlasting glory.
Those were the last words Dio spoke. He died with a strange happy smile. Now what stops us from going through the white doors? Nothing, but the bombs go off in 30 minutes and we die. Damn.
Mama gave us the password for one of the bombs. This is bad. What are we gonna do?
I don't know.
How much time have we got?
Also, one assumes that if this is how the timeline plays out previously, that bomb 0 and the other bomb are hidden somewhere else in floor A or floor B, and not behind the white chromatic doors.
25 minutes.
Are you sure?
Yes. When he told us the time, I checked my bracelet. It said exactly 30 minutes.
You mean the bombs are gonna go off the same time the next set of doors opens?
Yes. The time on your bracelet is the time we have left.
And that's very convenient. Oh, so 25 minutes.
This isn't good. I was hoping that we might be able to escape through the white doors, but
It takes 5 minutes for the primary door to open and close. So,
yes, I know. There's no way we can get through them before the explosion happens.
Well, there's no point just standing around.
We don't have the input device
Start
also.
looking. We need 3 things. The password input device.
Yes. And the remaining 2 bombs, right?
we also need passwords for all the bombs other than number 3.
Exactly.
Maybe Dio has a note or something.
Hold on. Let me check.
She knelt down and quickly checked his pockets and sleeves, then sat back on her heels, frustrated.
Damn. He's clean.
See, in this pose, her lips aren't moving either. And they kept running into that same problem, didn't they? Only a few poses, when they're looking straight on, do the lip flaps even begin to match.
And we'll just have to hope we find it somewhere. Tenmyoji, can you go tell Luna what's happened?
Right. I'm on it.
Good. The rest of you, let's move out. We can do this. Let's go.
We all took off on a run, heading in different parts of the building. But all of our searching turned up nothing. And as we searched, the clock kept ticking. 15, 10, 5, 1. Then at last the chromatic door opened. And unless you are particularly safe inside the chromatic doors, you're all gonna die.
Doors have opened.
In a funny way, this is probably as far as we've gotten, though, in the actual AB games and Nonary Game.
Until chromatic door.
our time had run out. We watched the white doors open. Or the doors to heaven or to hell. That thought barely had time to flutter through our mind before everything went white. We didn't even have time to say goodbye. 1,000 emotions flooded my brain in those last moments. Why? How? How had we ended up this way? Then a blistering wave of heat, like the surface of the sun itself, wiped out any lingering thoughts. So you get the big explosion. My consciousness slipped away into a bottomless pool of darkness. Neither heaven or hell, only the void. I don't know if it wouldn't have been better if it were a case where Zero Jr. had just said at the very beginning of the game, if you don't escape fast enough, the building might explode, who knows? And then every bad ending could have ended in an explosion just to prove that to be the case. This is a real ending though, so we get the credits. No reason to watch the credits though. So we got the Alice end, which, alright, now that means we are down to 3 endings. And we are now at a point where the only thing that I think is going to significantly change is we need to rewind and jump back to this. And we might as well do this. We're going to go a little long. We've already gone very long here, but I want to know I am here before I'm done. And make sure I'm certain about this. Right, so just go here, open the safe, and we can just look at the archive now. So safe, quarters, moon, sun, sun. Yes, it's opened. Man, what good is a victory dance when there's no one to see it? I'm lonely. Oh well, let's have a look inside. So we can now see what secrets that would have unlocked had I put in the secret code. Let's see. Primary chromatic door. Secondary chromatic doors. These feel like very useful bits of information. EU, I think, is going to be something like ergo units or something. Erotic units. Stands for erotic units is a system developed to measure the combination of physical, emotional, and situational attractiveness. Ranges from 0 to 20, where 20 might be Marilyn Monroe, and 0 might be Gilbert Gottfried. I imagine those are names of Japanese people in the Japanese version. For the curious, Danny Trejo rates 16 EU. Just being sexy does not guarantee a high EU rating. Not to be confused with the competing system of hotness and sexability. The EU system weighs a number of factors such as practicality, sustainability, emotional investment, and the bias of the observer. Women with a high EU rating usually have mastered the art of the tease. Grandpa's Video, a collection of films that Tomoji has gathered. Their content isn't really explicit per se, but they still aren't really appropriate for someone Quark's age. It should be noted that the term does not imply the video contains grandpa or grandpa-like actors. Here we have Sigma's cat problem. Sigma has a strange verbal and possibly psychological tick, which causes him to make cat puns whenever talking about cats. It'll be interesting if they come back and explain this. Pause now if you want to read all of this, though. That's probably not that important. Wow, there seems to actually be some kind of story here. Where apparently Sigma was given a magical gift. Let's see. When Sigma was in preschool, there was a deserted house near the school that everyone called the Cat Mansion. He always loved cats, so every day he would visit the Cat Mansion and give the cats that lived there some of his lunch. One day he realized that he could understand what the cats were saying to one another. A magical black cat appeared and told him that I had given him the gift in exchange for giving food to its fellows, but the magical cat said, to be continued. There's no real reason for it to be to be continued since you got all this information at the same time. You can never tell anyone about your gifts, a magical black cat warned. If you do, you'll be cursed. But young Sigma was so happy about his newfound ability that he slipped and told a girl about it. So the black cat cursed him. His curse was to speak only in cat puns for the rest of his life. Fortunately for him, a magical white cat also came along soon afterwards, felt the curse was a little too harsh and lessened it, so he would only talk in cat puns when he talked about cats, and they lived happily ever after. Yeah, that seems made up, but who knows? Everything's made up. And then here's like a definition of what a phone is, and even some hints where they give you some secret codes to even try. And then we are really at the point where, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 secret escape rooms are left, and by the looks of it there are 4 safes left. Oddly, seemingly there's still like a lot of items to collect, so once we get into the later game we are going to end up collecting a bunch of stuff, and we haven't gotten any new help stuff in quite a while. And then one assumes at that point you can just jump straight to this point, and that should be fine.
It's almost time. What are you gonna pick? If you aren't going to do it, then you're gonna choose betray, right?
Yeah. Don't worry about it.
Alright. Take it away.
So the first one is with Fi, and she wanted us to choose betray, and we didn't choose betray, we instead chose ally, which took us this way and gave us this ending, which we would have only been able to get this ending if we had done some of the other endings. Take note that there is still an ending here we would have to go and finish, and so it probably is the smartest move that once we've done all of these endings to skip the one that has the passcode in the user login, because we still don't know anything about that, and just go to the left and rewind to here, rewind to here, and then anywhere else that needs to be done. Decent chance by the time we go through these 2 endings that we will have the unlock to do this one also. And we do have 10 out of 10 archives, so we are good. So I want to just make sure I save again so I know I'm in the right place. Alright, well, we went a little long today, almost 4 hours. That's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.